Well, hello, wonderful people. It's me, Ryan Burns, the DB Cooper sleuth, as people would say. So, how are we tonight? It is, what is it? January 21st already. You know, I tell you, the older you get, the more of these days, months, years they go by. Hello, another huge asshole. That's a great name. Hello, Nicole. Hello from the UK. Hello, Robert Moore. Hello to Miss Hayden. You are awesome. Let's see, just looking at all this. So we're just going to have a hangout session tonight. I have nothing planned. I've been working really hard on this project. If you recall, recently, one of my recent videos, thanks, Aaron, first live stream. Hello from the UK, all these people from the UK. Wonderful. Weird hearing me at 1x speed. Oh, you've been hustling through my podcast, I guess, Aaron. Anyway, I've been busy working on this narrative thing for the hijacking, and it's been a real chore, but I think it's going to be out tomorrow. Part 2 of my hijacking narrative, be about 30 minutes long, I think. Production quality is getting better each time I go along. Hello to Tina Mucklow. That would be something if it was really you, Tina. And oh, okay, well, not going to put that on there. Not putting that comment on there, but for those of you in the chat, I guess you can see that. So anyway, so I've been busy up working on this project. Oh, speaking of which, somebody asked me a few weeks ago, what were the questions I would ask for Tina? And really, I kind of came to the conclusion that it had to do with, I was just curious to know what he actually looked like when she last saw him, because essentially, I want to know how accurate Richard Tusaw's book is. I think it's accurate because, again, he wrote this in the early 80s. He had talked to every single one of the witnesses, including Tina. It was Tina's first real interview. And so if he had written some kind of bogus nonsense in there, then surely, they would have called him out on it and said, hey, your book sucks. You're making up things. So it seems like most of the things would have a source for it. So she's the one. The Tusaw book is where we come up with the drag bag. You can see with little Coop here is the drag bag thing. Tina, according to Tusaw, says that he's walking down the aisle and this thing's dragging behind him. So I'd like to know if that's accurate. So I think if I talk to Tina, I would say, hey, is that correct? Is it correct that that this happened with the drag bag? And also I would want to know about him bitching about D-rings. That comes up in Tusaw. And one of the reasons I think that that's accurate, two things about Tusaw is that Tusaw essentially did not like Cooper. He wanted Cooper to be dead. He especially wanted Cooper to be a dumbass who fell into the river. That was his entire thesis. So him giving Cooper any agency to be an intelligent skydiving kind of guy would be against his agenda. So it makes me think that some of these things that seem to boost Cooper's parachuting credibility, which come from Tusaw, are accurate, such as him bitching about D-rings. I didn't know what a D-ring was until I got on this case. I didn't know what a packing card was until I got on this case. So in the Tusaw book, Tusaw's got Tina allegedly telling him that Cooper was looking at the packing cards, that Cooper was bitching to her about, hey, where's the D-rings on this parachute? If they're sending me front chutes, surely they knew I need D-rings to jump with to use these front chutes, right? People say, well, why would Cooper assume these things? I think that the best analogy is Cooper assumed Cooper didn't need to specify I need D-rings, because it's kind of like if you say that you were going to rent a truck and a trailer. You said you called a rental agency, hey, I need a truck I need a truck rental and I need a trailer rental because I have to haul some things around in a trailer. Well, if the truck they gave you didn't have a trailer hitch, you'd be like, wait a second, how can I use this trailer that I rented without there being a trailer hitch on this truck you're giving me? So when Cooper asked for 2 fronts and 2 backs, that stings to be, that feels true. Him saying, hey, where's the D-rings? They should have known I needed D-rings. That rings true to me, because it'd be like I said, if you rented a truck and a trailer, well, hey, where's the hitch for this? So I don't think he felt he needed to specify that his harness needed to have D-rings on it. But I'd want to know if he actually said that about the D rings. I'd want to know if the packing card stuff is true and how he jumped. So I think those are the only 3 questions I would ask for Tina, really, just because I would really like to know what his parachuting acumen was. Why do you think Cooper asked for 4 parachutes? Well, I mean, but I think the main reason most people think it's because he was trying to make the authorities think he was going to take a hostage with him. That way he ensured he wasn't going to get chutes that were failed parachutes that were rigged or, rigged to fail, right? Because they're not going to execute a member of the public, or, he keeps, they're probably thinking he's going to take Tina with him. And then what's interesting is I remember there's an FBI document or maybe it was Detler told me on the phone that there was some thought that they were concerned that they were going to make the pilots jump out and that he was going to fly the plane himself, which is not unreasonable. A year later in Seattle, there was a hijacking of Frank Sibley, I believe in August of 72, maybe. And he was a 727 pilot who hijacked a 727. So there is a direct comparison kind of to that idea that, hey, maybe he's going to make the pilots jump out. But again, you would need 3 because there's 3 members of the flight crew of 727, of course. Okay. Oh, hello. Several Australians here. I love it. What time is it in Australia? I don't even know what time it is. One of you Aussies tell me. That's great. Somebody says, D. Grider. I was wrong. It wasn't McCoy. Love you, Ryan. Okay. Why did Rick LaPointe just assume that the DC-9's aft stairs could open mid-flight simply due to the 727s being able to do that? Did he have any background knowledge? I think that, okay, so Richard LaPointe had been a chopper crewman in Vietnam. He was a door gunner, I think. And what's interesting about this is I didn't know until recently that Vietnam helicopter crews had parachute training. I guess I mean, if you're several thousand feet up, I guess you may as well have one. But they'd had parachute training. But I guess just being in aviation-ish in the military, he may have just assumed that it would be fine. It's a big assumption, but I suppose that if you understand pressurization, and maybe again, it's possible. LaPointe was a big Cooper fanboy. When LaPointe, during his trial, they pointed out that when he was trying to play the innocent act, it's 12 p.m. Okay, hello, 12 p.m. in Australia right now. Anyway. But during LaPointe's trial, they pointed out that he had DB Cooper memorabilia on his walls and things like this. So he was pretty interested in it. So it stands to reason that he may have even talked to pilots about the thing or whatever. Which copycat was the most technically competent? Fisher, McNally, etc. I mean, probably McCoy, honestly. Although McCoy did make some mistakes. I think that McCoy, I can't really recall. There was something about McCoy gave them ground speed when he should have given them airspeed, something like this. But I'd probably say McCoy was the most technically competent. So Heinemann's went off with nary a hitch, really. It took him a while to get the money together because he requested $500 bills and $1,000 bills. So they had to have money flown in from Richmond and Atlanta and all these other places. Heinemann's thing took a while. He even he said he demanded, his went on so long that he was already in the papers when he was on the plane. So he said, I want copies of the Washington Post or whatever it was to read about himself while his hijacking was in progress. Heinemann his hijacking is strange. I mean, this is the guy who left I don't know what he was. I think Heinemann clearly had mental derangement of some sort. He kind of fits that mold of schizophrenia that a lot of the regular routine hijackers kind of have. They're just kind of in their own little world. But Heinemann did things like he left his luggage on the plane. Imagine if DB Cooper left his luggage it had some embroidered clothes in it. I don't think it said Heinemann, but I think he had boxer shorts or something in his luggage they found that was embroidered with his initials. So they found that. But yeah, Heinemann, I suppose, was probably if he hadn't, if he had been less crazy and less obvious about who he was, if he had, for example, not hijacked in his hometown, like, I mean, he was staying in a hotel in his hometown. He's from Allentown, Pennsylvania, and the hijacking, he boarded the plane in Allentown. Now, he was staying in a hotel at the time, but still, he hijacked from his own backyard. If he had hijacked in, I don't know, St. Louis or somewhere, then I don't, and if he hadn't told them, he never told anybody his name. But Heinemann's a interesting guy. If I ever get around to writing my Copycat book, he'll be interesting story. I've written letters to two of his sons to try to talk to them, and I haven't heard back. Now, Flyjack, I guess, still thinks he's Cooper, which is ridiculous. The guy's not Cooper. I mean, Heinemann had, if you read the descriptions of Heinemann, he had a large growth on his nose that they reported, the witnesses. He was missing a lot of his teeth in his upper mouth and lower mouth from smoking, maybe. I don't know, but he's missing several teeth, multiple teeth on up and down. Just he had a broad kind of nose, just small. It was kind of some of the things that he did, you would think that if you were Cooper, you would know not to do. For example, he let the passengers off down the aft stairs, Heinemann did. So he's sitting back there as the passengers are going by him, and he's mean mugging them as they go by. It just seems risky. Cooper didn't do that. So I don't know why Heinemann would, I don't know why, if Heinemann was Cooper, why he would have done that. That didn't make any sense. And also, again, Cooper is a Raleigh smoker. Heinemann ordered 3,000 Benson and Hedges cigarettes, by the way. He ordered, not sure how many cartons of cigarettes Heinemann ordered, but he ordered, part of his ransom was 3,000 Benson and Hedges cigarettes. Why am I not a mod of DB Cooper Reddit? I don't know. I know the swimmer is Dave Feudman. I don't know who the other, I think his name is Fat Kid Down or something like that. Yeah, thank you, Jude. Heinemann ordered 15 cartons of cigarettes for his part of his ransom. Would you rather personally solve the case or wake up tomorrow and be as handsome as Auriculus, as Dan Greider called him, Auriculus? But I'd rather solve the case or wake up tomorrow and be handsome like Euless. I think I'm plenty handsome. I think McNally would have come up on the FBI radar eventually as a suspect. I do not think so at all. I know McNally is the one that scares the... McNally essentially gave me an existential crisis. Whenever I met McNally, it was hard to sleep even, because I said, we're never going to solve this case, because if McNally, if we had never known, I write about this in the book, that if we had take a shot, I mentioned the book, take a shot, Brandon. Anyway, I mentioned in the book that McNally, his hijacking, if he had got away with it, we would not be thinking, you could live 1,000 lifetimes sleuthing the Robert Wilson, that was his alias, the Robert Wilson skyjacking, and you would never come across Martin Joseph McNally, unemployed gas station worker from Wyandotte, Michigan. Like, just because his skyjacking is so insane. And as I've told people, please, please, please listen to the American Skyjacker podcast. It is incredible. But yes, Nikki's correct on that. This would have been Mac's undoing for sure, is he talked too much. Somebody would have dropped a dime on McNally. He talked and ran in criminal circles. Exactly right. And they did. That's what got him, really, is he just talked too much. Bill, hello, Bill Rollins. As a lawyer, do you think a FOIA request for the FBI DNA report could be successful if the report was provided under an NDA to an independent lab? But we don't want their DNA is not good enough to do anything with, Bill. That's the problem, is even if you could do that, it's not. Remember, their DNA is 3 partial profiles that are way partial. They're so partial that millions upon millions upon millions of Americans. It's like, if you listen to Larry Carr last week, he was like, the first thing I did, I called the crime lab. They essentially laughed at me. They said, this DNA is useless to actually identify somebody. All it could do is say that, and again, we don't know whose DNA that is. That tie was passed around like crazy. So we have no idea whose DNA that even was. What do you think? What do you know of what Shale Sonnen said about knowing who DB Cooper was? We found out who that was. Nikki found that out. I'm not sure. The guy looks like Cooper. I get why. I wish I had that photo on Facebook. Maybe I'll try to find that real quick. But Nikki found out who that guy was a while back. And let me see if trying to look that up real quick. Bear with me. Let me do a search for Sean Sonnen and see if there he is. Okay. Yeah, here he. Okay, let me upload this for y'all. This is the guy who's his name. I don't remember his name exactly. Maybe Nikki knows his name. But okay, Nikki, I don't know. I mean, do we know this guy's name? I mean, we know who he is, but I'm not sure if we know his name. So, okay, he says that somebody else. It wasn't Nikki who found out who the guy was. It was somebody else. But anyway, let me show you Shale Sonnen's suspect. The problem is he's too young. This guy, swarthy as hell, and definitely looks like you would think Cooper would look like, but he was just too young. He was in his mid or late 20s at the time or something like that. Tom Jett was the guy's name. That'd be a cool name. Tom Jett. Anyway, here's Tom Jett. I mean, he's got that little Bing nose. He's got the high forehead. I mean, come on now. I mean, that's not bad at all. Right? Pretty close. I could see that. Tom Jett, though. Okay, so he died. He died recently, apparently. Okay. Do I think the case will ever be solved? I mean, yeah, sure. Well, I don't know. I try to be optimistic, but I don't know. I hate to be. He does look a little Middle Eastern. Jude says I'd rank him higher than Bob Rackstraw. He was a motorcycle racer and general badass. Yeah, and what's interesting is, as I've said, the most recent suspect is not terrible at all. Actually, the one whose friend caused a big scene at CooperCon is a pretty solid suspect for sure. I just don't know why he would have. I don't know of any criminal undertaking that guy was involved in, and I do think Cooper had. But I mean, look, the only guys who hijacked planes who weren't crazy were either suffering from recent PTSD, like LaPointe and McCoy and Hedy, or they were outright criminals like McNally or some of the other hijackers. Okay. Hello, Packer. I hope everybody's keeping nice and warm. Who is more likely to be Cooper, Langseth or Lauren Hall? Well, I mean, probably Skip Hall currently, because Langseth was investigated. And I mean, there is an FBI file. I finally found it, where there is an FBI file where they showed Langseth's photo to the girls in, I think, February of 72. So that's pretty recent. And they said, no, it's not him. Now, the FBI did say that this photograph we have of him is from 10 years ago. So maybe he looks different now. But Langseth was the most investigated suspect, as far as I could tell, that the FBI ever did. But Skip Hall's good. I mean, I think Skip Hall's only problem really is his forehead. He does have some wrinkles in his forehead, but I mean, Cooper, he does like this, but Cooper's got forehead wrinkles. Did Vault File 102 ever drop? No, I think somebody fell asleep. So, yeah, Jude, I agree with you on this. Absolutely. Jude says the thought of Cooper being a loving family man with zero criminal history is as bad as McCoy or hide on the plane arguments. Yeah, I just don't. Unless, like I said, I mean, McCoy was a loving family man, but again, McCoy had major, major trauma going on in his head. So, I mean, there's that. But with Cooper's age, it's unlikely he was a Vietnam veteran. So it's unlikely that unless you're Braden or somebody, but most of these guys that were that age were, not in Vietnam. So his PTSD would not be so recent to make him go do something like that. Do we know that whole story? Anyone hear from her? Yeah, Kelly, there are people talk. I mean, she emails me. I know that Pat Boland is talking to her. Like I said, he's not the worst suspect. He's got a great look. That's for sure. There are photos of him. Wish I could try to find that one photograph of him. Actually, what was, gosh, I will try to find that photograph of him. Yeah, let me pull up a photograph of him. There's a photograph of that guy. So for those listening, this is the suspect who his family, not his family, but his, I don't know, sort of one of his really close friends came to CooperCon and, was very passionate about this guy being DB Cooper and allegedly has tapes of him confessing he was a glider pilot, daredevil, Canadian, obviously wore parachutes in his skydive stuff. Where is that? Oh, is this gonna be where I'm trying to find this particular photo where he really looks like Cooper to me. Pretty creepy, actually. Well, here we go. Okay. Sorry, folks. Sorry for the delay. Talk amongst yourselves. I'm never prepared enough at the time, but let me get with these photographs. And every time I try to download something, there is a new file called WEBP. Whenever you download something online, pain in the nuts, because nothing will ever, you have to convert it. I have to convert this thing right now, these photographs, to a friggin' JPEG or something before I can upload them to show you guys, but I'm almost there, so bear with me. Anyway, this guy's a good suspect. I mean, I don't know what he's a little young. I think he was maybe 37 at the time, but I mean, I don't know. So let me upload this photograph for you guys, or a couple of these photographs of him. I don't know if people are saying his name in the comments, but I don't want to say his name yet. But yeah, because that's not my business to be saying his name, but I can definitely show some pictures, I think. So here he is with a couple of his, I guess, kids in around the time, a little bit before the hijacking, I think, maybe several years before the hijacking, but that's him. Because he was a really big time glider pilot, and those guys are ballsy as hell. Wear parachutes. He was also a actual licensed pilot, of course. Had done skydiving, I believe, things like that. And this one photo especially creeps me out. This might be my favorite photo ever of a suspect. Now, he's got a mustache, but if you take away this mustache, this looks a hell of a lot like my mind's eye of what I think Cooper looks like. So check that out. That's pretty sweet, isn't it? Pretty awesome. I like the sunglasses. I like the nose. Everything about that is just awesome. The face shape, the kind of long head, the high forehead, the kind of hair with a little bit of kink to it is pretty good. And let's see. Let me try to zoom in on that for you guys. There we go. Yeah. Not bad. Yeah, no pouty lip. I would say that is the main thing with this guy, that I've not noticed a pouty lip with him. And that's almost although I believe that they were saying that he had a hockey injury to his mouth. He had a puck hit his mouth or something when he was younger. So he did kind of have a bit of a deformation on his lip. So, but I don't know, but I like his hair. I like the sideburns, like the nose. I mean, I'm not going to say he has a turkey neck because he is sitting awkwardly in a plane or in a thing looking, I believe he's actually wearing funny enough, he's wearing in this photograph, that is a Navy harness he's wearing. We can tell by the straps that he's wearing a Navy backpack. So there's that, but Vortex, but yep. Okay. You don't think, yeah, I agree, Aaron. I don't think any of the witnesses, 100%, that was one of my things. Absolutely. That was one of my things I had a problem with. I said, this guy's not ugly at all. I mean, this guy's looks, even if you think he looks average, they used Cooper's looks as a metric to eliminate people. And people are like, well, they were 20-year-old girls. Everybody's ugly who's 45. That's not true at all, because we have plenty of times where they're eliminating Cooper, or they're eliminating suspects who are older men for being too handsome. So they're like, oh, that guy's too handsome to be Cooper. And remember, I mean, like I said, Cooper must have been hideous as hell because, right, they said that, what's his face? Help me out. I have so many of these. I get so many of these people. Don Burnworth. They said Don Burnworth was too handsome to be Cooper. I mean, how in the world is this guy considered too handsome I mean, that's kind of a weird picture there. Let me get the better one that's more accurate. I mean, how is this guy considered handsome? Well, they didn't say he's handsome, but they said Cooper was more handsome. Or, I mean, that this guy is too handsome to be Cooper. Cooper was less handsome than that guy. Here's the Don Burnworth things here. Yep. So Tina Mucklow says this picture here. She advised that Burnworth was younger looking and was a more handsome man than the hijacker. Flo Schaffner. She advised Burnworth was too young looking and also too good looking. Robert Gregory liked Burnworth's jawline, cheeks, and nose. And Cord Spreckle said that if the individual were 10 years older, there would be a resemblance between the hijacker and Burnworth. So, yeah. Hairy arms. Okay. He looks like Borat. Without the stash, he looks like Ted Danson. But yeah, he looks good. I mean, missing the pouty lip, and he's a little too good looking. But yeah, other than that. But as far as Buddy Holly was DB Cooper, yeah. For every Braden fan, there is a McNally fan. Well, we all love Mac. I need to get Mac on here. I need to call Mac. I haven't talked to him. He's got that dreamy look. He has the vacant stare consistent with someone who would do a hijacking. So Burnworth actually I mean, Burnworth, yeah, would be a good, I know that, obviously we have them, but before we had them rejecting Burnworth's photograph, that's kind of the disappointing thing is when you have these FBI files coming out, sometimes you'll read these files and out comes Don Burnworth all of a sudden. I'm like, oh, there's Don Burnworth. We've been talking about Don Burnworth for 15 years. Mark Meltzer interviewed him, talked to him. But yeah, we've been talking about Burnworth for years and years and years. And suddenly we get these FBI files. Like, oh, there's Don Burnworth's FBI file. We didn't even know he was investigated. I mean, we assumed he was investigated, but we weren't ever sure. A lot of people say they were investigated for being DB Cooper, but we don't know for sure. But Burnworth was, and it was disappointing to see, oh man, the Stews saw his photograph like in December of 71, like really recent after the hijacking. And obviously you saw what they just said, too good looking, too young, all the witnesses. It's like, oh man, because Burnworth kidnapped his 3 children, I believe in like maybe the summer of 71, and took them to Germany. And because his wife was involved in the mafia or something. So he kidnapped his kids to get them away from the mom, and it was all that sort of stuff. And so he was technically in Germany at the time of the hijacking. And Burnworth's funny. He says that we have Burnworth on record with the FBI saying that he thinks his wife hired a lookalike to do the hijacking to try to frame him. So he thinks his wife was trying to frame him with the DB Cooper hijacking, which is pretty funny. But because Burnworth does it like the sketch a lot. But Burnworth was a 727 pilot, and a damn good one too. In fact, Burnworth I believe he has a couple patents for the 727. He did some kind of, I'm not sure. Mark Meltzer knows everything about that, but he had patents. He was a great pilot. definitely could have pulled off the hijacking. Aaron says, what's your take on Cooper's relative knowledge of aviation and jumping? I mean, he knew enough to do it. Whereas you look at people like Paul Cini, we know for a fact was a true novice who was 13 days, maybe 11. I'm sorry, 11. I think someone called me out recently. I got mixed up. I think Paul Cini was 11 days before Cooper. I think the November 13th. Yeah. And Cini hijacked a DC-8 and he was going to jump out the side or something, which would have been disastrous. And how are you going to open the door, in flight? I mean, he was going to jump out the emergency exit or something. So he was a terrible, terrible klutz. So Cooper pulls it off, and Cooper knows enough about flaps and things to say all this stuff. And, guys like McNally who came afterwards, they were not Cini copycats. They were Cooper copycats. They got, so people can say, I personally think Cooper was a Cini copycat to the point of copycat, meaning like, hey, that's a good idea. I could do that. Hold my beer. I can do that a lot better than that idiot did. Whereas, so he's not really a copycat. He just, the concept, all the other main copycats, Hedy, Heineman, all these guys, they are copying Cooper. Okay. Cooper wasn't exactly a copycat of Cini, but the concept, I think, is, so I do think he refined him being able to refine the concept into a workable heist tells me he did have aviation knowledge and some parachuting experience. Because again, as I've said a million times, I am not going, if I have to come up with $500,000 tomorrow and I have to plan a heist of some sort, I'm not going to be devising a heist where I have to scuba dive away from a cruise ship or something. I'm not going to rob a bank on a cruise ship, rob the purser's office, and then escape via scuba diving when I've never scuba dived in my life. And I don't even like the ocean. So, I mean, Cooper, and again, all the copycats at least had some aviation experience. Let's go through it. First one, Richard LaPointe, door gunner, Vietnam aviation, had parachute training. McCoy obviously was a pilot, a licensed pilot, a chopper pilot, and a skydiver. Rob Hedy was a national collegiate champion skydiver and was in the 101st Airborne paratrooper in Vietnam. Heineman had been on a bomber crew in World War II and had been over in Vietnam doing contract work. So he may have come across he may have hung out at the bars with pilots and things. Melvin Fisher had pilot training from World War II and flunked out, I guess, and then was on a bomber crew in World War II. McNally was on a sub chasing boat that ran up and down the Pacific coast for 2 years in the Navy. So he had aviation. Okay. Have I missed any hot McCoy updates, like $194,000 being found in his coat pocket? No McCoy updates. I think Grider's kind of taken his ball and gone home. I think that was his last fart. They killed him because they wanted to frame him for Cooper, so they killed him, but then they didn't frame him after they killed him, so nothing works for him. So this is dumb. Do you think it's possible? Is Paul Cini still alive? Yes, he is. He definitely is still alive. And Chris Cunningham, pretty sure Chris Cunningham got him on the phone. And this Paul Cini, who I found Paul Cini, and I don't like cold calling people. Chris Cunningham has no problem cold calling people. So I was not going to cold call Cini because I'm a big sissy. And I don't like doing that. But Cunningham did. And I heard the audio. He recorded it. And it's an old man. And he said, well, my name is Cini, but I am Paul Cini, but people think I'm the hijacker. And it's been going on for years. People think I'm the hijacker, but I'm not the hijacker. I don't know. So I don't know how many Paul Cinis there are with that exact spelling. How likely was William J. Smith to be DB Cooper? Sorry to Dave Fubin, but no, like 0 chance. William J. Smith is 0 chance as being Cooper. Sorry. I just don't. Again, we now have his daughter who is in the vortex, and his daughter thinks it's so preposterous. Her dad worked 2 jobs. She said, she's like, who who would have cooked our Thanksgiving dinner that year? Like, we didn't miss Thanksgiving with our family. He was there, and he worked 2 jobs. And she said that she used to stay up every night to see his headlights come in her window. He was around. William J. Smith was not going to go, hijack a plane. That's just silly, I think. Let's see. Yes, Kelly. Cini was the one with the axe to the back of the head, or maybe the front of the head. I think it was back of the head. Yeah, a male flight attendant or a male crew member. Cini was drunk too. Cini was a drunk, and he was crazy drunk. Dodge Ram says, question, Ryan. Well, ask away. What's your question? Cooper copied a comic. No, he didn't. How tenuous is the Air America connection if multiple people, even before Cini, seemingly talked about jumping out the back of a 727? Well, so the Air America connection really, to me, has way more to do with him, what he asked them to do, to fly it with flaps at 15 and gear down, because that is precisely Air America's configuration when they would do their cargo kicks out of 727s. So now they didn't have stairs on those. Those were ramps that they had pushed down. So there were no stairs. As far as we know, Cooper, I would wager a good amount of money on it that Cooper was actually the very first person to jump off the stairs of a 727. There were people who went out of a 727 before, but they went down a little ramp. The stairs were removed. So how much experience did Orville Lyons have with the 727? No idea. I mean, none. Orville Lyons told the FBI, I've never even been on a commercial plane, but he was a smoke jumper. That just seems silly to think that. Okay. Yeah. Nikki's like saying that, Nikki says, we know now for certain that 727. Oh, okay. Well, okay. Thank you. Okay. So there's some news. Yeah. Nikki's right. Thanks to the Bloodhound. Was that Chris Brewer who found that they used to call, so 727s used to do these ferry flights where they would go up in the air, like just to go 10 miles or something. And, a jet can go 10 miles in literally minutes, in 4 minutes or something, up and down. And when they did that, they would fly at 15 degrees and have their gear down the whole time. So it was that too. Not to be an annoying Braden person, but do you know if Air America did that during the time Braden was in Nam? Actually, I don't know that. Pat, maybe somebody might know that. Pat probably know that more than I would, Pat Boland. But I mean, Braden's gone in December of 66 out of Vietnam. I don't know when Air America started using the 727s. I feel like that might have been a little bit later. I could be wrong, though. I know they were looking into it in 64, but I don't know if they were actually doing the cargo kicks out of 727s until after 66, until after Braden was there. Not sure on that. Are we stuck on the Raleigh cigarettes, or are we just saying he was a smoker? The reason I ask is I've smoked for years, and I've changed brands over the years with Winston and the Marlboro. I mean, he smoked Raleighs at some point, right? It didn't matter what cigarettes he had, but they were definitely Raleighs. We know they were Raleighs because Tina saw the packaging, and they recovered the cigarettes, and they had Raleigh stamps on them on the filter. They had the little stamp on them, the little writing. How did no one was reported missing with the look of a DB Cooper if he died? I'm sorry, I'm trying to translate that. Oh, okay. I think you're saying that if Cooper died, how did nobody report somebody missing? Well, remember, a different time back then. And even now, I believe Chris Cunningham has the statistics. In America, there are 1 or 2 million people in America who are considered what is termed missing, meaning that they're missing persons who are never reported missing because nobody cares enough to report them missing. As Ralph Himmelsbach said, Cooper probably was a guy who nobody cared to have around anymore. I've mentioned before, I had an uncle who, no idea if he's alive or dead for decades. He never had kids, and so really, If I just don't, I think he could have died and, you know, never been reported missing because maybe he had no kids, no family. I mean, you know, those of us who have families are lucky to have families, I suppose. Not everybody has families who care. Yes, Rob. Yep. If McNally went missing after the hijacking, nobody would have reported him gone. See, I actually, yeah, I asked when I spoke to Claire, which is Martin McNally's sister. I asked her. I said, "Hey, Claire, if Marty had gone missing in '72, there were like 8 McNally kids, I think, and Mac was kind of the black sheep. And Mac's very, very smart. I think all the rest of them became accountants and businessmen and doctors and things, but Mac was the black sheep, really. He came back from the military, kind of messed up. But anyway, I asked her, I said, if Marty had gone missing, would your family have gone to the authorities? She goes, no. Marty was his own man. He was a grown man. He was his own man. He was kind of a problem a lot of the time. And my family wouldn't have, I mean, my parents might have cared, but they wouldn't have cared enough to cause a stink about it. Right. Joe Biden pardoned DB Cooper. He pardoned a lot of people. May as well have pardoned DB Cooper. What's funny is if you remember, Larry Carr mentioned that Larry Carr asked his supervisor with the FBI, said, hey, can we issue immunity to DB Cooper? Because it doesn't really matter at this point. That might get him to come forward if we said, look, we will not prosecute you for being DB Cooper. And they shut that down, which is kind of lame. I wish they would have. But by the time Larry did this was 2010 or 2008 or so. So what is that? 37 years after the hijacking, Cooper's mid-40s. Cooper was probably dead by then anyway. Any Skip Hall developments with the tapes that Packer mentioned? No, he's still just trying to get those tapes eventually. Do I think the FBI knows something that the public are not aware of? No, I do not. As far as Cooper goes, at least. No, I've talked to enough of the FBI guys recently, and the old guys, and they have no reason to. I mean, there's nothing. I guess what people have to grasp about DB Cooper is that it's not that big of a deal. It's important to us, but it's not. It wasn't. It was. It's not. There's no need for a cover up. It was a hijacking. There's no need for a cover up on DB Cooper. No need for any of this. It's just another hijacking, and he got away. A very clever bank robber. He got away because he was first to do it, and they didn't expect it, and they didn't know what the pressure bump meant at the time, and so they didn't know where he jumped for 40 hours. So, yes, the public has made it bigger than the FBI. They don't care. It's like it's an old case with no leads, no actionable leads. Yes. Somebody asked Cooper's age. The FBI thought DB Cooper was 48. That was their approximate age for Cooper, which I would agree with that. Because remember, a couple things to remember. Hal Williams is the only male who came face to face with DB Cooper without his sunglasses on, who interacted with Cooper very briefly, but he interacted with Cooper without his sunglasses on and after he was needing to pay attention to him. So with Dennis Lisney, the ticket agent, Cooper was just another guy in line. Here comes Cooper and just whatever. But Williams was the gate agent, and the closest thing we had to security at the time was gate agents. So there was a big rigmarole between the government, who's going to pay for airport security, the airlines, the government. The airlines didn't want to pay for it. The government didn't want to pay for it. So they'd compromise, and they said, okay, well, we'll have government agents teach your gate agents these like hijacking criteria to try to find hijackers. And I've never been able to find this. I'd love to know what their thing was, but it was like top secret at the time. It was like how to catch a hijacker. I don't know how many they caught, or if they caught any at all, but what's funny is LaPointe's, and they used to pull people out of like gate areas to do extra screening on them. And I know during McNally's flight, I believe 3 people were screened, but not Mac. And I know during LaPointe's, hijacking is the same thing. There were several people taken out of his line, but not him. So they didn't do that. Kelly says, wouldn't the FBI hold back at least one fact to make sure stories are legit? They did with the tie. That was the whole purpose of why we didn't know about the stupid tie until why we didn't know about our tie until Larry Carr showed it to everybody, is because they wanted to be able to say, hey, what did you leave on the plane? Or if somebody was calling to say, hey, my uncle was Cooper, and they'd say, well, ask him what he left on the plane, or did he mention anything about what he left on the plane? And if they said, well, he left a tie on the plane, they go, okay, well, that's interesting. So now, honestly, though, I do wonder if that was smart, because, I mean, again, a black clip-on tie it's pretty ubiquitous. And this tie clip, you can get these on eBay really easily. They weren't uncommon. I believe Nikki, maybe I'm wrong. Am I right? I think that when we were doing research on Verdal, we came across, Nikki, it was when we were looking at one of the one of the women who, it was that woman who, Elizabeth, what was her name? Elizabeth. She worked at Rim Crew. And there was a photograph of a guy. I thought, I was like, oh, is that Verdal? But there was a guy who looked like Verdal in the photograph, and he was wearing literally a skinny black clip-on tie with this on it. And I was like, oh my God, this guy at Rim Crew is wearing one of these. But so they weren't, you get those at any shop, those little tie clips. So, but still though, you wonder if like, hey folks, we're looking for a guy who would have worn this, who looks like the sketch. It would have been additional things, additional help. So I don't know what benefit it was to hold it in their back pocket. As I've said, the thing that I would hold in my back pocket if I was the FBI is I would say, hey, what did you do with your drink? Because I don't think anybody would ever say that I spilled my drink. Cooper's a badass, right? Anybody fake confessing to Cooper would never say, well, I spilled my drink. My one and only drink, I spilled it. No, they would never say that. So that's what I would say. Were pawn shops a thing back then? Of course. Yes, pawn shops were a thing. What were you thinking, Dodge, about pawning something? Yep. Neighbors that witnessed McCoy being shot and killed say McCoy had groceries in his hand, not a gun. I'd have to, I mean, maybe I don't want to say they executed. I mean, the thing about McCoy is that McCoy was already suicidal. Okay. He had suicidal ideations. This is in his FBI file. He had told his accomplice, or he'd told the guy he escaped from prison with, he said, hey, if we're ever caught, I'm just going to raise my gun and they'll kill me. And his Melvin Walker, his getaway accomplice, was like, oh, I'm not doing that. I'm surrendering. Melvin certainly turned McCoy in. That's my thought. There's no reason. This guy was in the FBI's top 10 most wanted, McCoy's accomplice, who escaped prison with him. And he was they were robbing banks and things and kidnapping people while they were out, him and McCoy. And this guy goes back into prison and gets out in 7 years. No way. He just happened to not be there when the FBI agents are in the house and they killed McCoy. He was down the road. I remember I told Mac that story because Mac knew this guy in prison. Obviously, Mac knew Melvin Walker. I think his name's Melvin Walker. Knew the guy, and he was like, "Oh, he's a goddamn rat, wasn't he?" Because Mac knows you escape from prison, you're going to be there for a while, right? I mean, Mac tried several times to escape from prison, and that's why he spent 38 years in prison. Whereas this guy, and Mac wasn't even on the FBI's top 10 most wanted, and Mac never actually escaped. Yet this guy did actually escape and was kidnapping people and robbing people and things while he was out. No. So, yeah, that guy rolled over on McCoy, I think. And that's what got him out of prison early. I mean, I've been a federal defense attorney. I mean, there's no other way for that to have happened than for him to have rolled on McCoy. It's impossible. He got a deal to turn himself in and to turn McCoy in. Okay. How much do you think Cooper planned his escape after the jump? I get the feeling the hijack was planned fairly well, but after the jump was kind of winging it. Yeah, it seems like he was winging it. I do like Flyjack's theory, I'm not totally in agreement with it, but Flyjack's theory posits that something changed and made Cooper change his plan. Like Cooper had one idea for his escape and then decided, so something happened. He was like, I actually have to get off this plane early. So maybe he wanted to jump. Maybe he wanted to jump closer to Mexico or somewhere, right? There's no federales in Mexico. The FBI is not there. Maybe he did want to do that, but something may have caused a problem with him and he changed his plan and just decided to wing it, because it does seem strange that everything is well thought out and prepared. And he even has his mystery bag, right? Think about this. I mean, whatever was in the mystery bag, yay big mystery bag, whatever was in there was not used during the actual hijacking. Because the only item that the only item that Cooper ever miracled out of nowhere that he used, that we know he used in front of people, was a pocket knife and the cigarettes, that weren't visible. So whatever was in the bag was not used during the hijacking. So it would have been used during his jump or his escape. So he wasn't totally winging it because he had these things with him. But very strange. I mean, there was no, as me and Larry talked about last week, there was no reason to not give them a flight path to follow. If he wanted to jump over Vancouver, then yeah, that's Victor 23. He would say, fly Victor 23 to Sacramento, California, or whatever. And the question is, he said, the flight path doesn't matter because it's not like they're going to lose a jet. Sorry, Eric. They're not losing a freaking hijacked jet that is squawking, we're being hijacked, we're being hijacked, we're being hijacked. That's what a squawk does. And remember, as we discussed before, for those who were around during the great Euless debate, not NORAD, gosh, folks, my brain is so full. Who is the, crap, I'm having a stroke. NORAD, not NORAD, pre-NORAD. Who am I thinking of? Come on, somebody. Everybody's delayed. Who are the radar people? I'm brain farting. See, we're on a delay, so I'm having to wait for people to tell me. I'm brain farting. Not NORAD. It was pre-NORAD. Anyway, when a plane automatically squawked, we're being hijacked, their radar automatically started record. Sage radar. Thank you. Sage radar. The Sage system. When your aircraft started squawking hijack, the Sage radar automatically recorded their position. They pinged them every 5 seconds. Ping, ping. I mean, instead of pinging them every 30 seconds, whatever, pinged them every 5 seconds, and recorded their precise location on a hard drive, which was pretty high tech back then. So that's how they were able to get the flight path to the FBI the next day. It's because they had a printout automatically being spit out recorded of the plane's position. So the plane's position was always going to be known. It's when Cooper jumps is what Cooper was trying to hide and make sure they didn't know. Of course, he didn't know what the pressure bump was going to do. Anyway, why didn't Flo see the mystery bag while Cooper was walking toward the plane? Good thought there. So my theory is, think of this. So Tina says that the bomb, we have a document where Tina says that the bomb was in the left corner of the briefcase. Now, which means it didn't fill up the briefcase, right? So if it's in a corner of the briefcase or one side, then what's in the rest of the briefcase? What else? It's dead space, right? So she specifies it was in the corner of the briefcase, so my thought is that the mystery bag, because we know that the mystery bag was smaller than the briefcase, apparently, is what they said, is that it was smaller than the briefcase by a little bit. So I think that think about this. If you're Cooper and you're walking around with a dummy, even if it's a replica bomb or whatever, you don't want the bomb to be shaking around in your briefcase, moving around. So if you can fit your mystery bag of goggles, gloves, compasses, whatever's in there, boots, if you can fit that in your briefcase, well, that acts as stuffing, right? So when you're walking through the airport and walking to the plane or whatever, and you're carrying your briefcase, then your bomb, your fake bomb, whatever it is, your little science project, is not going to be bouncing around. It's going to be snug with that. It's like stuffing, essentially. So I think that when Cooper sits down, he opens it up at some point. Whenever he opens the briefcase up for the first time after he sits down, he's hiding it from people maybe. He takes the mystery bag out, and I believe he puts it under the seat. My thought is that he puts it under the seat because Alice never mentions the mystery bag. Flo never mentions the mystery bag. These are people who were hanging around. So I think it was under his seat. So what's interesting is look at who saw the mystery bag. Tina, Nancy House, and Bill Mitchell. Well, Tina sees it, and near the end of the hijacking, she says that, so I think Cooper had like at least pulled it out or something and laid it on a seat or something. So she saw it. Nancy House saw it when Cooper went to the bathroom. She says he's carrying his briefcase like a pizza box. And the mystery bag, she says it's 4 inches tall and like smaller than the briefcase, is on top of the briefcase when he's walking with it. Now, Bill doesn't say when he sees it, but Bill says he saw the man with a bag. Now, my thought is a couple things about Bill. Bill's the only person who saw Cooper from a side angle, from a distance. Okay, try to think about that, right? He saw him directly from the side, from a distance. Now, in a plane like this, and I did look, when I was on that 727, I did look. I tried to see if I could see. You can see under the seats across from you, okay? So Bill, if Cooper had the bag under his seat, then Bill would have been able to see it because of his angle, because he had the angle to look from a distance under it. Whereas if Flo sits down and it's under her, she's not seeing it, or Alice isn't seeing it. So I think Bill's vantage point, allowed him to see that. Edwards talks about how the mystery bag might have been the money bag. Any thoughts on how Edwards messed this up? Well, Doc, we love you, but I mean, I don't know how he messed that up, because that doesn't work. Because I know how that doesn't. I know how that doesn't work. Cooper goes to the bathroom, so Nancy House sees him when he's going to the bathroom, and then he comes out of the bathroom with this bag. And Edwards thinks that maybe Cooper took the money bag into the bathroom and was doing something with it, and then came back out with it, and that's what they saw. But no, Cooper went to the bathroom before the money. Like when Tina was out getting the money bag, that's when Cooper went to the bathroom. So when they park and Cooper says, "Hey, go get the money," he tells Tina, "Hey, I'm gonna go to the bathroom for a second. I'll be in there for a minute or two." She goes, "Okay." And she says that by the time she comes back with the money bag, dragging it down the aisle, Cooper's back in his seat. So while the time that Cooper is in the bathroom is when she's getting the money. So it could not have been the money he was in the bathroom with. See, so that's one of the problems with Doc there. With Bob, if you're watching, that's an issue, because the timing doesn't work for that to be Cooper's money bag, because he didn't have the money bag yet. I like a lot of different sandwiches too. Let's see. They could have tracked DB Cooper using his iPhone to identify him. Hey man, I'll tell you all this. Do not commit crimes these days. Don't commit crimes any days, but I've had so many clients recently get screwed. I mean, I'm defending these people, but because of their cell phone data. They're like, "Oh, I wasn't at the park that night. I didn't rob Billy Joe or whatever. I didn't break into that person's car." Well, they can subpoena your court records and your cell phone records, the court can, and they can see which cell phone towers you are pinging off of at any given time. So I've had a lot of clients. I've had to say, "Look, you were there," because they have your cell phone data, and they go, "Oh man," So if you're going to commit a crime, make sure you leave your cell phone at the house, because that has been two things that the two things that I've gotten clients busted over recently that law enforcement's doing: cell phone pings and tag readers. They have these things now. If you ever see these like interstate compact cars that are just sitting on the side of the interstate, they're reading tags as they go by super fast. I don't know the technology exactly, but they can read your tag like instantly. And it seems shady. I don't know the exact. I mean, it's going to be in the Supreme Court at some point, surely, for invasion of privacy or something. But what they'll do is let's just say you're driving from, I don't know, California to Virginia. You're driving across the country, and you're in Virginia, and somebody, when you were passing through Missouri in the middle of America, some cop didn't like what you were doing, and thought you looked shady, but didn't have any probable cause to actually pull you over, they will enter that tag into a database. And I don't know how long they keep this database, but it's like suspicious tag database. And so when you're in Virginia, if a tag reader hits your suspicious tag, well, then that vehicle will, that cop car or whatever will get behind you and wait for you to swerve. And then they'll have a reason to pull you over. And then when you get shifty, they can say, oh, well, do you want us to we can get the drug dog out here. So yes, thanks for the advice. Everybody's saying, thanks for the advice. Yes, they do, Elizabeth. They run a similar system to run tags for repos. And the number one place where repos happen? Walmart in America. Walmart. That's where these tag readers catch people, because everybody eventually goes to Walmart. So these repo people with these tag readers, they'll just drive through Walmart parking lots, or they'll park at the front of a park near a Walmart and just read the tags, these repo people, and then they see their tag. Yep. So that's how they do it. Grudge. Do you have any thoughts on I just have a grudge? I mean, everybody has I don't know any criminals that don't have grudges, honestly, Bill. I think it's just something, I often feel like it's just something Cooper said, because Tina says, sir, do you have a problem with our airline? Why'd you pick us to hijack? And he says, it's not because I have a grudge against your airline, miss. It's just because I have a grudge. I mean, he kind of laughs at her. He's like, I didn't pick he goes, you people were just unlucky. You were in the wrong place, wrong time. Your flight just happened to suit my time, place, and what I wanted. So I have no problem with Northwest Orient. That's what he said. But the grudge, it's a cool line, but it's a better line than saying, sir, why are you doing this? Well, I'm just a dirty thief. I want some money. It's a cooler line to say I have a grudge. But again, maybe he had a grudge. But like I said, every criminal has an excuse. Bill Rollins says the grudge was the reason for the hijacking. I don't think so. But Bill, we got to have a discussion. Bill, I ought to have you on the show. You can come talk about, why don't we do that, Bill? Bill, you come on the show a couple weeks. We'll talk about Joe Lakich. You can talk all about Lakich. I don't think Lakich was Cooper. His head's way too wide, in my opinion. And also, I don't think that, if you lost your daughter in a skyjacking, why would you then go put other men's daughters in peril? But yeah, Bill, I'll definitely have you on, Bill, for sure. I'd love to. Bill says, sounds good. Okay, Bill Rollins, well then, I'll reach out at some point in the next couple of weeks. We'll have you on. I mean, Lakich, people like Lakich. I don't know if I have a picture of Joe on here. I can get one though. Let's see. And also, well, Bill, I'll save all this discussion for whenever you come on the show and talk about Lakich. But I'd love to have you on talk about Lakich. Let me try to find a picture of Lakich. I'm in my folder here for Cooper stuff. There he is. Okay. There is Joe Lakich. His nose isn't too big. I mean, not as big as some people. I don't see a pouty lip particularly, but we'll talk more about Lakich. I'm not sure when that picture's from though. That looks in the 50s or something. I think Joe Lakich was out of the military by that point, I think. All right. Anyway, we'll have him on. We'll talk about Lakich next couple weeks. That'd be good. Ryan likes Amelia Earhart. Yeah. And I think he did. Yeah. Too handsome. Yeah. Everybody's saying too handsome. Yeah. Not ugly enough for sure. If Tina had the sense that Cooper probably flew 305 before, then did the FBI make any inquiry about it in Minneapolis? Well, I mean, if his the problem there, Tejas, is that if Cooper was an alias, well, how would they know if he had flown on 305 before, right? So, I mean, he's not going to use the name Dan Cooper, you wouldn't think. Well, he could have, but by the time there is an FBI file that mentions that Northwest Orient, they said, hey, can you do you have flight information of all the passengers who were on your flights for the previous yada yada? Because they wanted to see if there were any trial runs, right, for Cooper. So they said, hey, will you get us and they didn't have this thought until months later, which is kind of lame. But they said, do you have any of this information? And they said, no, we get rid of the information every 3 months or whatever. So they didn't keep a backlog of their passenger names. So that's a problem. Any chance I could reach out to Shale Sonnen? Nikki, why don't you do that? Nikki, why don't you reach out to Shale and see if, I think actually we might have, I think Shale did do a shout out for CooperCon on the CooperCon Instagram page. You can see him doing a shout out. Yeah, Pat says I think there might be another scene. Yeah, I don't know. Now that I've seen, I think you're right, Pat. Now that I've seen an actual photograph of Paul Cini, then I don't think the guy that I found was Paul Cini. So, okay, are the only two copycats alive, Hedy and McNally? The only two ones that were successful. Billy Hurst is still alive, and I believe Broer. I thought he was in a mental institute, but Broer found something about what's his face? The kid who hijacked. Man, I'm having a bad day. I'm going crazy. So here's Paul Cini, by the way, for those wondering what Paul Cini looks like. This is Paul Cini in prison after getting whacked over the head. There's Paul Cini. And Billy Hurst is still alive. He was a Vietnam veteran Marine who had kind of lost his shit a little bit. Billy Hurst, interesting though. Billy Hurst was the only other hijacker I've ever known who kept the passengers in the dark the whole time. They did not know they were being hijacked, which is pretty cool. Okay, Everett Holt's the guy's name who did the Christmas hijacking. So Everett Holt, on December 24, 71, he was the first copycat. This guy here, there's Everett Holt. He hijacked a Northwest Orient plane, a 737, I think. So kind of botched it. He could never have even done it if he wanted to. But he hijacked in Chicago, or maybe they landed in Chicago. He might have taken off from Indianapolis, maybe. But anyway, that's what's his face? Everett Holt. He was the first copycat. He's still alive, and Billy Hurst is still alive in Texas somewhere. I tried to call him. I didn't get a number for him. I tried. And Hedy and McNally. Hedy is who we're shooting for CooperCon this year. So we're looking for Hedy to be our major guest at CooperCon this year, just like Mac was a couple of years ago. Thoughts on the Zodiac Killer? No idea. Sorry, answer Terry's question. What's Terry's question? Why is Tina living in Eugene, Oregon? She's not. Tina lived in Eugene. She lives in the East Coast. I don't want to say where she lives, but she lives in the East Coast right now. Yes, Nicole, they found out that Holt was released from the mental hospital in 75. And here's Pat saying that 1968 was the tequila drop. So yeah, for those asking about Braden and 727s, the 727 jumps in Vietnam for Southeast Asia, at least, happened after Braden's time. But Braden could have been aware of it. Yeah, okay. So you may have missed earlier, but has it ever been reported how the feds found Richard McCoy hiding out in Virginia Beach, Virginia? Well, we just discussed that because I think his partner turned him in for a deal because he was tired of running, and I think he turned him in. Joshua Bernstein says, I thought she was still here in Eugene. Are you sure she moved? Yes, she lives on the East Coast. 100%. Very much aware. I've got software to track people. I hate to be creepy like that, but I do. I use it for work. Sometimes I use it for a hobby, but usually I use it for work. But yeah, she does not live she lives in the East Coast. Oh yeah, David. Yeah. So David, yes, the guy that he escaped prison with, McCoy, Melvin Walker, was like the worst of the worst. He was on the top 10 FBI's most wanted. And while they're out, they do kidnappings, robberies, burglaries. And he's out of prison 7 years after they catch him with McCoy. And he's conveniently down the street when the FBI kill McCoy. So I think he called and said, hey, I'll turn myself in if I can get a deal. That is how that works. having done things like this in the criminal system, that is how things work. So I'm pretty sure that, yeah. Which Cooper book is the best? Mine. Like if you had to recommend only one, mine. It's not out yet though, sorry. But currently, probably Bruce's book. I mean, Bruce's book has the most info in it. The most accurate narrative. Well, the most accurate narrative is what you're hearing in my YouTube videos. No, mine's not out. Mine's not out yet. It's coming out, but you are hearing my narrative in my YouTube videos. Just letting people know that is the beginning part of my book. It's just about, so that'll be part number 2 will be out tomorrow, I think, of my video. Have you ever thought of opening up a physical store with DB Cooper stuff? No, nobody's ever made money off DB Cooper. I don't think you need a physical store, although there are restaurants and things that are pretty cool. I'm from the eastern shore of Virginia, and if McCoy had come across the bay and hidden here, they never would have found him. Well, they found him, yeah, like I said, they found him because his buddy, who was somehow out of prison 7 years later, which is literally impossible. In the federal system, that cannot happen. Like when you are busted by the feds, you are busted. They don't even have parole. I mean, they have parole, but they don't have. In the feds, you're going to serve. For example, in most states, take Mississippi, where I live, for example, if you commit a nonviolent crime, so whenever you see on the news when they're saying, think about this, people don't realize this. It sounds worse than it is, but they go, he's being sentenced to 10 years in prison. If it's a nonviolent charge, they only serve 25% generally. So you're out in 2.5 years. Well, that's the state system. The feds, you don't do day for day, but I think you earn like a day for every 30 days you're in or something. So, I mean, you're going to serve 90% of your sentence in the feds. And you do kidnappings and robberies and you're busted by the feds, you're in there for life, essentially. So he gets out in 7 years after escaping prison. Already, he turned McCoy in for a deal, for sure. FBI agents found more bill fragments while digging 2 days later. The finds were the size of nickels and quarters. Yeah, that's nothing. I mean, there's nothing to that, Tina. Those were the fragments that had come off, right? We can actually see some of these. I'll pull up a picture of it. We can actually see these pictures of the money of the shards. You can see some of the shards. What a name. Shards. You can see some of the fragments that the FBI kept here in this photograph here. These are just the shards are just the flakes of the money that came off the edges, right? See those flakes in the upper right corner? Those are shards. That's what they're talking about. That's just the edges of the dollars that had been flaked off. So anyway, and no, I don't know why. I still need an answer for why those bills are black. I'm sure people are going to ask me that, but I do not know why those bills are black. How excited are you feeling about the remaining FBI files to be released? Would you wager there'll be anything good? Probably not. Well, so the rest of them are going to be suspect files. One day I'll do a video where I just talk about 302s, but people are saying how much more info is there to be released. Mark Zaid, who sued the FBI to get these released, was told that they estimated there were about 80,000 pages. And we are at like 46,000 pages right now that have been released. So, and they've been doing this since 2017. So we'll be in the year of 2030 or something at this rate when they finally get done. But this is all the suspect files. So yeah, Bill Rollins says that's the common thought. Bill says the bills are black because they use silver nitrate to check for fingerprints. Now, what's weird about, that was what I thought. That's what Tom Kay says, but Brian, for whatever reason, Brian is convinced that some of the bills were black already. Now that could be his memory is just, he's thinking of things, but that could be his memory of when they laid out the bills on the table and he got to pick and choose which bills he wanted to keep in 1986 or whenever. But he says that when they pulled them out of the ground and they went and washed them in their sink, that some of them were already black like that. That's what he says. Now, I don't know what to believe on that. Oh, and Brian will be there this year, by the way. Brian, I'm quite certain, will be at CooperCon this year. Do I find 9/11 theories interesting? Hell no. I mean, good God, no. No. I mean, no. What do you mean? I mean, no. No, I'm not going there. Okay, I'm sorry. Somebody's talking about rubber bands. Who's talking about rubber bands? I got to find. Okay. Someone recently said that the rubber bands on the money take 6 months to dissolve in water, and they were found intact, which suggests it was buried months before they found it. Tina Bar. Yeah, it's crazy. They've done a lot of experiments. People in the Vortex, and Nikki and Tessa and Tom have done experiments with seeing how long these particular, and they get the exact rubber band. They've gotten the exact rubber bands from the company, because they found out who First Bank used for rubber bands. And they actually, that company's still around, still uses the same formula. And I know Tom has tested bills, submerging them, burying them in sand for years and looking at them. And if they were buried deep enough, I mean, the thing about the rubber bands is as soon as oxygen is the enemy of rubber bands. Okay. Oxygen is the enemy. So if they're buried, then, they're not going to see too much oxygen. And there are, well, somebody says 9/11 isn't a conspiracy theory. It's an actual conspiracy. Well, true. By definition, it was a conspiracy among multiple people to commit a crime. That is what conspiracy means. But yeah, the rubber bands, I don't know. I think that, rubber bands can last a long time. There's a guy in the Vortex. I forget his name. I'm sorry if you're watching, but one of the things he does is he goes into old houses and looks at, houses that are abandoned or something. And he says that he came across a bunch of rubber bands with money from like the 1930s that was in a basement or something. And the rubber bands were still intact on it. But they've lost their elasticity, but they're still there. And now Brian said that as soon as he touched them, they just disintegrated essentially. So when we say that the money had rubber bands on them, they were essentially disintegrated rubber bands. They weren't doing anything at that point. How close was Rob Hedy in getting away? Well, not close. So Rob Hedy was busted for a dumb reason. Now, I think Rob might have got away with it. So Rob left very little paper trail. Rob was back from Vietnam for about 2 weeks, and he jumps a gate at the Reno airport. We have no alias for Rob Hedy because he didn't buy a ticket. But Rob jumps a gate at Reno and runs up. I always say he does for those who know the meme of Leroy Jenkins, he does a Leroy Jenkins. He just goes, and just goes charging onto a 727 with a mask on. I think I've got his AI. I put AI because he was wearing his Vietnam jacket, his fatigue jacket, yellow like cargo pants, a fishing vest, which is what he put the money in, had a 357 Magnum, and was wearing a hood. Rob Hedy, June 2nd, 1972. So Rob Hedy, Leroy Jenkins onto this aircraft, and he goes on the plane while the passengers are deboarding the plane. Is when Hedy runs on there. He even fires a 357 Magnum, I think twice in the airplane, which for those of you who've ever fired a 357 Magnum without hearing protection, that is bing, like your ears just. But anyway, so Rob jumps out not long after. I remember he was an NCAA like title winner skydiver for, I think they called it's what is now Boise State. I want to say they called it like University of Idaho, Boise or something at the time, but now it's Boise State. But that's what he jumped for, was Boise State. And so he was a really good skydiver, and he gave the pilots exact coordinates to fly. And by this point, the pilots, this is June of 72, they'd already had Cooper, Bossini, Cooper, Heinemann, McCoy, and LaPointe. So the pilots were aware of these sort of things. So the pilots said, screw this guy. We're not going to follow his exact degrees that he gave, the flight degrees that he gave us, the coordinates. They moved it off by like a couple degrees, not where he would notice really. So when he jumped, he jumped on the wrong side of a lake. There's a big lake, not Lake Tahoe, but there's a lake south of Reno. I don't think it's Lake Tahoe, but he jumped he was planning to land on, he had parked his car on the side of the road on the east side of this lake, and the pilots diverted a little bit, and he ended up jumping on the west side of the lake on accident. He thought he was where he was. And so it took him all night to walk around the lake to get to his car. Now, problem is, poor Rob, I mean, a smart guy. Rob is an accountant now. Rob got his accounting degree in prison and still has an accounting business as far as I know. He's an old man, but he still runs it. Anyway, Rob's a smart guy. Rob's dad was a metallurgist, by the way, at the University of Reno. He's a professor. Anyway, but Rob, his car had a U.S. Parachute Association bumper sticker on the car. So poor Rob, when they had found his car and they staked out his car, and they were waiting for him as he walked out of the woods to find his car, to get in his car, they busted him right then and there. So that's Hedy's story, is he was busted because he was jumping. Now, if he had landed on time and got to his car, then he would have, I think he would have got away with it. By the way, Rob Hedy, for those who don't know, has easily the best, I don't know, who do we like best? Do we like Rob's perp walk? Given the peace sign, that's pretty damn cool, isn't it? We got Rob's perp walk. And then we've got Mac's perp walk. I don't know which one's better. Where's the Mac perp walk? Well, all of them are great. Here's LaPointe doing his perp walk. Well, when they have him, where is Mac's perp walk photo? This is, I don't, how do I not have that on my, oh, there it is. Yeah. There's Mac's perp walk. So yeah, we've got some damn good perp walks. We've got that one of our copycats. We got him looking like Wooderson from Dazed and Confused. All right. And then we've got Mac. I don't know. What do y'all think? Who else? What other perp walks do we have? Oh yeah, we have Heinemann's perp walk. Let me get that to load. There we go. You know what's weird is there's a website on eBay. It lists this as Governor George Wallace escorts Bill Heinemann. It's like, what? I don't know, like AI or something wrote that, because I don't know why. Governor George Wallace, and that's just some FBI guy. But yeah, there's Heinemann. Heinemann, yeah, I think Jude mentioned earlier, Heinemann got scared because they put out he was in Honduras, and they put out a thing that was like, hey, if you know this guy, if you see this guy, dead or alive, we'll pay you X amount of American dollars. He's like, oh shit. They'll behead me, in Honduras. So he turned himself in. Here's another one of Heinemann. Smile for the camera so we can see your teeth, Bill. But there's Bill. So, AKA not DB Cooper, I don't think. I know. I can't know, but sorry, Blackjack, but no, not DB Cooper. But yeah, there's Heinemann. Will I self-publish my book? No. Oh, easy. This is easy. Easy. My God. Easy. My God. Which of the copycats do you think would have been the most fun to represent as a defense lawyer? Mac. Now Mac would be frustrating, I guess. Mac was very involved in his own defense. And it's like, dude, you're busted. Just plead guilty. Mac didn't want to plead guilty, but they had him. Mac had his stewardesses saying it's him. But when will the book be out? I don't know. Which hijacker got the thumbs up from passengers? That would be Heinemann. Remember, I mentioned earlier that the passengers in Heinemann's plane had to go off the back stairs to leave, and they had to walk past him. He's in the back, and one of the passengers gave him a thumbs up, and Heinemann apparently gave him a thumbs up back. Kind of funny. Somebody took several pictures of Heinemann, by the way, during the hijacking. It's fun to read these, because I was writing a copycat book before. I was like, I'll just write a D.B. Cooper book. But so I was doing a lot of research on the copycats, and during Heinemann's hijacking, one of the passengers started like taking pictures of him, like from behind and stuff, or just like sneaking photographs. And the passengers were like, "What the f are you doing? Stop it!" They're like trying to tackle him, like, "What are you doing? You're going to get us killed!" Taking pictures. But they apparently, the FBI took this camera, and the photos did not turn out. Apparently, maybe I think that they were overexposed or something like that. So, and we do have some pictures of some other hijackings in progress from passengers. But is there any amount of money to pay you for an advanced copy of the book? Nah. Who is cosplaying as Tina Mucklow? Somebody. John Kacher, 1966. Elizabeth says, I need to take the 101 course before the 102 class if like I'm taking. Well, Elizabeth, look. I think I released the first part of maybe a 5-part series. It's gonna I think it's gonna be 5 parts. But part 2 is coming out tomorrow, I think. 30 minutes long. So just as long as you just listen to these parts, you'll have a pretty good, Who's the guy dressed like a clown? Well, that would be McCoy, right? Where is he? There he is. Yeah, McCoy. Yes, McCoy. McCoy definitely not DB Cooper. I mean, again, if you're DB Cooper, why not just do it the exact same way? The only hijacker who was actually dressed like DB Cooper was Heinemann. He tried his best to, except he wore gloves. He did wear gloves. Cooper didn't wear gloves, but Heinemann wore gloves. Yeah, Heinemann was wearing a black suit and a skinny black necktie. So, and similar sunshades as well. Probably Ray-Ban Ballaramas, I think. I need to order a pair of those. I think that's what Cooper probably actually had, not the Solaramas that we were thinking. I think he probably had the Ballaramas. Those look a little better. Can I conclusively prove that DB Cooper was not a lizard person? My favorite lizard person story is Louis C.K. the comedian. I was on Opie and Anthony show, and they were interviewing Donald Rumsfeld, and he kept asking Donald Rumsfeld, "Sir, are you a lizard person? Just confirm or deny that you're a lizard person." And Rumsfeld's like, "Could you believe if I actually answered that question?" But Louis C.K. had the best line, one of the best lines. I howled laughing. He asked, Louis C.K. was talking to Donald Rumsfeld, and he asked Donald Rumsfeld. For those who don't know, Donald Rumsfeld was the Secretary of Defense during the Bush administration. And I think he was National Security Advisor during the first Bush administration, maybe during Reagan. I'm not sure. But anyway, he's been around for a minute. Been around for a long minute. Louis C.K. asked Rumsfeld, he said, "Sir, how many men whose hands you've shaken have been hanged?" It's like, he goes, "More than a few." So how many men whose hands have you shaken have been hanged for war crimes? Obviously, Saddam Hussein, that was the joke. Okay. I lost my job here. Are there any jobs there in Mississippi? Plenty, actually. Mississippi is kind of a good state to move to these days, as far as cost of living. How secure do you think Cooper's money bag was? Odds of losing it, you reckon? Well, I mean, let's see. So let's see. Little Coop here is got it going on. Let me try to do this. So little Coop has so Cooper ties about 100 feet of shroud line around his waist and then attaches the bag to it. And you can see, obviously, back there, my replica bag, that is a C First Bank bag with $10,000 size pieces of paper in it. So it weighs about the exact right. I cut 10,000 pieces to approximate money bundles. So that, because I wanted to show off how heavy it was. And I think that was a big hit at CooperCon. People go, "Oh my God." So I don't know. I don't know if I trust it as much as, how do you manage your time with doing this plus a law practice? Well, my law practice, like I said, as I've said before, a lot of lawyers play golf. I DB Cooper. This is what it is. A lot of criminal lawyers have free time. This is great. I do. Okay. Great reference. Yes. Maybe DB Cooper was the fugitive. Caller. Opie Anthony reference. Hey, Joseph, you're my soul brother. You get the Cooper reference. The fugitive. That's a really funny skit for those. Look up fugitive Opie and Anthony on YouTube. I believe he did not lose the money. If he did lose the money, I think it's very likely that he would have another go. Well, yeah, McNally obviously lost the money. McNally lost $500,000. And he was going to go. He said, well, remember, if you listen to this podcast, Mac was going to kill himself. Mac jumps and he loses the money. He goes, oh my God, I just lost $500,000. That's about $3 million today. Oh my God. He's going to unbuckle his parachute and kill himself. He's so distraught. And he goes, as he's unbuckling, he goes, you know what? Where there's life, there's hope. I can just do this again next week and I'll ask for $1 million next time. So, are you aware of any actual skyjackings where bombs were used? Well, I have a video on that. Rob, look in my old videos. And there's a one that what is the title of that video? I'm not sure, but I have a video about, did DB Cooper strike again? I think's the name. I had to have a clip. I'm sorry, folks. Sometimes, listen, y'all are hardcore viewers. If you're watching this, like sometimes I have to do clickbaity things. I have to have stupid names to get views. I mean, it just algorithms for YouTube to get viewers have to have clickbaity titles like, did the FBI lose DB Cooper's DNA? Or, did DB Cooper strike again? Which, I mean, he might have, honestly. If you go watch DB Cooper strike again, that guy looks like Cooper, the sketch. And then I have to have clickbaity thumbnails of me going, of me looking like, looking at, reaction things. I'm sorry, it's cheesy and corny, but you have to do it for the algorithm. It is what it is. The book title tentatively is DB Cooper, the FBI Files. In fact, as my loyal viewers, I will show you the concept art for the book, actually. Let me try to find that. Yeah, this is a concept art, I think. There we go. DB Cooper, the FBI Files, a look inside the FBI's longest manhunt. So that's the cover that we're trying to get. Pretty cool, huh? Nice cover. Why did I not choose to self-publish? Well, I don't want to self-publish. For one thing, I don't want to self-publish because I can't use it for Wikipedia, which is the entire reason I wrote this book, is because stupid Wikipedia people were like, well, because I was trying to, when I overhauled the Wikipedia page, it needed it badly. One day I'll go through all the edits I had to do. That'd be a good topic for video. But when I went through the Wikipedia page, I was trying to write something like, oh, the FBI now thinks he landed in orchards, which is in Bruce's book. And they're like, oh, you can't put Bruce's book on there because Bruce's book is not reliably sourced. So Wikipedia has essentially to post something on Wikipedia, you have to have it has to be reliably published by an actual publisher. So Bruce's book was not exactly self-published, but it was published by a non-reliable publisher. And so they didn't do that. A couple of them don't tell anybody. Yeah, well, I can't say anybody. I don't want to throw anybody. There are some books on there that I was able to sneak in that aren't reliably published. I know that but they contain accurate information. But anyway, so I asked the publisher, the editors, there's like a back page of Wikipedia that you can get into if you do edits and things. And they were like, you can't publish that. And I said, hey, well, so if I wrote my own book on Cooper and got it reliably published, I can put whatever's in my book on the Wikipedia page. And they're like, well, yes. I said, well, okay. Challenge accepted. I'll do that. Let's see. Okay. Hey, Ryan, love the channel. Thank you. In regards to Cooper's strange, inconsistent knowledge during the hijacking, was he maybe trying to feign ignorance to cover his track and put people off? Well, it's a good question, actually. Feigning ignorance. I don't know of any ones who did feign ignorance, but that's a good question. I'll have to think about that some more. That's a good, I mean, he could have. I mean, the problem is, again, the 302s, they're not like Grider says, we're like, oh, it's, made up, whatever. But we do have, for example, I'll give my favorite example of a discrepancy in the 302s. We have one instance where Tina says, and this would tell us so much if we knew which one's accurate. Okay. So when Cooper wants to take off with the stairs down, and they say we can't do it because we have to rotate the plane to take off and it'll tear the stairs off. Tina tells this to Cooper. She goes, hey, they're saying we can't take off with the stairs down. We got to raise the stairs and then lower them in flight. And in one interview with the FBI writes that Tina tells them, then Cooper goes, that's okay. We can lower it once we're up. And then in another interview that they're writing a report of her interview, she says, Cooper says, that's okay. The cockpit can lower it once we're up. Now the cockpit could not control the 727 stairs, but cockpit could control like a C-130. Think about like the ramps that come down military planes. Those can be lowered from the cockpit. So either Cooper says that's okay, we can lower it once we're up, or the cockpit can lower it once we're up. That is a night and day monumental discrepancy. Okay, like that would tell us a lot because either, I mean, if Cooper thought that the 727 could lower the stairs from the cockpit, then he didn't know a damn thing about the 727 because it can only be lowered from the rear, from the little lever back there. But if he actually said the cockpit can lower it, then that shows a real ignorance of the 727. Like, those are very different. Which interview was first? They're the same interview. It's hard to explain. So I think that I go with him saying that we can. Okay, so the way interviews were conducted. So Tina requested a second interview. Tina has two interviews. If you get on my NORJAC page, you'll see Tina has two interviews on there. Tina requested the FBI about a week later. She goes, hey, she was back home recuperating. They had given them a week off or something. Great, thanks. And she's at home and she calls the FBI in Philadelphia. She lived in Bucks County, which was north of Philadelphia. I forget the name of the town she's from. Trevose, Pennsylvania is where she's from. So, sorry, she's from Trevose. Anyway, she calls the FBI and she says, hey, are you aware that Tina Mucklow has immigrated to Australia? No, Tina Mucklow lives on the East Coast. Anyway, she calls the FBI and she says, hey, will you come do a re-interview with me? We need to do a re-interview because I remember some things now that I didn't remember in the first time I interviewed. Yeah. So let me take a drink of water real quick. Anyway, so this is from that interview. Now, when these FBI agents, when they would what they would do is they would handwrite notes, right? Then they would handwrite these notes, and then they would have someone type up a report based on those notes, and then they would review it and say, yeah, that looks right. But one thing they would also do is they would send a fax, sort of a primitive fax called a NITEL. Or a teletype or whatever it's called, Airtel. They would do this primitive fax machine sort of thing. And so we have the actual they sent it to Seattle right after. So this FBI agent, the day of the interview, 302s take a few days to get written up. Okay. But they send a summary of the interview. They type up a summary of the interview to Seattle. And in the summary of the interview, which was sent the same day as the interview from Philadelphia to Seattle, it says, hijacker says, that's okay. We can lower it once we're up. But by the time it gets into the 302, it's written as the cockpit can lower it once we're up. So I tend to think that the earliest, date is it's the same reason why I like comp A over comp B. You tend to go with the earliest date. It just makes no sense that comp B would be better than comp A. Now, I mean, interestingly enough, I'll give Flyjack some credit there. I mean, guys like Donald Sylvester Murphy, I would say, do look more like the Hoodlum sketch than comp A for sure. And Donald Sylvester Murphy was the suspect who was most universally agreed that looked like Cooper. I mean, I think everyone liked him essentially. Everybody said that looks a lot like Cooper, and he does look more like comp B than comp A. But I still go with comp A because that was the first, right? Let's see. Oh boy. Euless just posted Auriculus, special live event, new development. DB Cooper is from, oh boy. What's Eric going to say now? Do I mean Dan Greider's info is wrong? Yes, of course it is. Dan Greider, God. How funny is it that Ryan looks like DB Cooper? One day I'm going to dress up like Cooper for a full show and we'll see how I really look. I don't know. I mean, but no, I do actually. I mean, I have the high cheekbones. Then, I got my tie. I'll dress up like Cooper one day. Yeah, they're saying my hair is too light. My hair is jet black. This is a light that is shining on my head. I have jet black hair. They're saying I'm not handsome. That's too bad. Have I ever jumped from an aircraft? No. Have you ever been inside a 727? Yes. They opened it up for CooperCon for us. We went inside one. Bill Mitchell went inside one. That was cool. Yep. Yeah, it's the light. My hair is jet black. I am too handsome. Thank you. Thank you. Handsome. I am. No one ever says I'm handsome. Appreciate that. Skin bronzer like McCoy, and you're all set. I know. It's going to sweat off me. Hey, Nicole. In Tusaw's book, the FBI thought that DB had taken that flight before because he knew where the oxygen bottles were stored, and Tina stated that not every 727 carried oxygen in the same compartment. That's going to be wrong because they actually had a dedicated, and I wish I could try to find that. Maybe it's, well, that's not right. Yeah, maybe if I type in oxygen in my thing. Okay, yeah, there we go. Okay, so this is the compartment where oxygen tanks were. They had a dedicated compartment. So I don't think that's right in Tusaw's book, but there's the oxygen compartment during the sled test. And that's going to be where Flo's purse was too. That's where Flo's purse was. And it's possible, I mean, it's probably where Tina's purse was too. So if Cooper knew where the oxygen bottles were, maybe he saw them when Flo grabbed her purse. When she opened that compartment up and grabbed her purse, maybe that's when Cooper saw the oxygen bottles. But that is where they kept their purse. And that's why Flo had to awkwardly scoot past Cooper to get her purse. How long did they fly with the stairs down? Well, let's see. They took off at 7. Well, no. So he gets the stairs down at 8. I mean, at 7:46, maybe 7:42, 7:46. They land in Reno at 11:01, I think. So I'm not good at math. So, I mean, 3 hours, 15 minutes or so. So they flew for a while. It got cold up there too. They were bundled up. I think that's why Tina's hair is not in a ponytail anymore. In the photograph of her coming off the plane, her hair's down. I think she was cold and pulled her hair down. But she did have that baller coat that she was wearing. Pretty cool. What percent do you think Cooper landed without an injury that would impede movement? I don't think he was injured that bad. Okay, so We've got some injuries. I don't think Heineman was injured because Heineman is seen the next morning getting a shave in the local town. LaPointe broke his ankle or came really close to breaking his ankle when he landed. Rob Hedy dislocated his shoulder when he landed. Landing at night's not easy. McCoy, I want to say, bruised his ankle or something when he landed. He was limping around. Mac had a concussion that was debilitating, actually. I mean, Mac ended up crawling into the woods and sleeping for 12 straight hours because he banged his head and had a concussion. So, I don't think he was injured enough to where he's not going to be able to get away. But I mean, I would not be surprised if he was hurt to some degree. Were the 727s only used in paramilitary activities in Southeast Asia? Didn't Packer talk about the Cuban operations? I don't know. Packer, I don't know if they did anything with that in the Cuba stuff, but are you supposed to roll when you land? What did they do wrong? So you're thinking of a PLF, which is a parachute landing fall, which is what they teach paratroopers. And I don't know if they teach that for sky. I don't think they teach that to skydivers because skydivers aren't going to land. Skydivers land more like horizontal, like they're going like this way when they land, whereas paratroopers are coming straight down. And Cooper's parachute was an emergency parachute; they go right down, so they will bend their knees. And that's actually some of the purpose of a drag bag, right? Is that this is going to hit the ground before you do, and it's going to take that weight off of you when you land, and so you're not going to land. And it also lets you know where, like a split second before where the ground is, you can hear it hit the ground, boom. So the bag's going to let you know if the ground's right there if you can't see the ground. So that's why they jump with drag bags. Now they don't. Now remember, they don't jump like that. They will attach the drag bag to their body and then they can like release it somehow. They have like a thing they can release. They teach PLF to. Okay, thanks, Mike. There's Mike. They teach PLFs to skydivers. Okay, good. But yeah, I mean, y'all do land a little. Y'all usually land more vertically, right, with modern parachutes than you do in like paratrooper parachutes. I think maybe I'm wrong. Okay, Mike Davis is about to be a star. Mike, you're a week from now, man. Your show, Mike's going to be on a DB Cooper show in 7 days. Our latest DB Cooper show, which I had a little bit of involvement with that. I think they're going to make a big stink out of Cooper jumping in the woods. I was like, oh no. When I heard about that, I said, oh my God. But it's Hollywood, baby. Can you get a driver's license photo of Michael Robert Barker? This is that Barker thing. Abraham, I don't know. You post a lot on this stuff, and I've never really looked into your suspect or whatever. But why don't I sell Cooper merch? Well, we did. Our store's closed. Our CooperCon store sells Cooper merch. We need to get our store back, but you get shirts that are like, "Where was DB Cooper?" and stuff. So our CooperCon. See, like the thing is that sketch is not copyrighted because it's government property. So you can put it on anything because any government work product, they call it, is not copyrighted. Elizabeth says, when is CooperCon? It is the weekend of like the 15th this year, and it's going to be in Vancouver, not Canada, but Vancouver, Washington. Public domain. Thank you, Mohammed. It's going to be in Vancouver this year, which is across from Portland, of course. And it's going to be in Vancouver at the Kiggins Theater, the weekend of like November 15th. And if you can come, CooperCon is awesome. Like I'll be there. You know, Bruce is there every year. Deep down inside, don't you feel like Cooper was a good guy? He clearly didn't want to hurt anyone and even offered some money. No, he wasn't a good guy. He was a hijacker. He threatened to murder people. Like, come on. Not a good guy. I mean, kind of likable. Yeah, I mean, like McNally. Okay, so like Mac. Well, Mac would admit he was not a good guy. I mean, Mac has admitted he would have killed somebody that day. He said, I was prepared to murder someone that day. It's kind of give you some chills, but Mac will look at you and say, look, I would have killed somebody. And McNally offered them. Exactly, yes. McNally offered the Stews money and was about to kill a cop. Yeah. finger on the trigger, pulling the trigger, and it didn't pull. I mean, so Mac was a rough guy back then, but Mac was still likable and enough to where his main stew is friends with him. In fact, for those of you who have not seen that picture, McNally is good friends with Sharon Weathersby, who was his Tina Mucklow. It's the hostage that he kept with him for 5 or 6 hours. They're buddies these days. He was texting her from CooperCon a couple years ago, being like, "Hey, isn't this crazy? I'm at CooperCon," and she was like, "Oh yeah, I need to have her on the show. She's sweet." Here's Mac and Sharon. This is Mac and his Tina. There we go. Great photo, isn't it? Yeah. No. Cooper was not a good guy. Yes. Elizabeth says having charisma is not the same as being a good person. Yeah. He was a jerk. Mac would admit he was a jerk back then. His brain was kind of wired funny back then. But no, Cooper was not a good person. Again, go listen to my podcast. I have a podcast. I should upload that to a video, but one of my podcasts, it's a short one. I know, short me, who could, but one of my podcasts is like 10 minutes long, and it bugged me. I had to make this podcast. I just had to put it out there because I was thinking one day, like, we can romanticize Cooper or think about him in a way that makes him think, makes us write things like Robin Hood or whatever. He didn't hurt anybody, but when you really think about it, try to imagine you like tomorrow, like genuinely imagine you waking up tomorrow, going to wherever your local airport is, getting on a plane, and then telling one of the stewardesses, I will kill you all if you don't pay me money. Like, that is crazy. Like, imagine actually doing that. Like, not just like, ho, ha, ha, it's a parlor game. How would I be DB Cooper? Like, would you give up your life? I mean, my God, as I in my video, Cooper waking up in the morning, Cooper knew that in the next 24 hours, I will either be dead or I will be the most maned man on the planet within 24 hours. He knew this. So imagine you saying right now, as you watch this, in 24 hours from now, I'll either be dead or I will be the most wanted man or woman in the world. Like, shoot to kill if they find me, right? That sort of thing. That's not a good person. Like, nobody who's just like, oh, I'm just Joe Blow accountant. That's just not. I don't buy that at all. For a Skyjacker psych profile, does it make Cooper a better person if the bomb was fake? I mean, I'm sure. Yeah, still a jerk, but yeah, I agree. Yeah, like, Mac didn't have a real bomb. Mac had a fake bomb and a pistol, but I suppose it makes you marginally better if you didn't want to murder everybody, but he was still prepared to do something. I do think he had a gun in his bag for sure. He had to have a backup in case they called his bomb out. But yes, because he's so mythical, it's hard to hate him. Yes, because we don't know him. That's just it. We don't know who he is, so he can be whatever he can be. That guy right there, that's like a Rorschach ink blot test. He can be whatever you want him to be. You don't know him, and so if we ever find out who he is, I don't know. It's interesting. Somebody asked me, like, who's my favorite Cooper suspect? I think my favorites just to learn about would be Braden and Verdal and Skip Hall are my favorites, like, to just as characters. Like, all three of those guys, like, are almost like cartoon characters. They're so their lives are so bizarre that they're fascinating to research. But those are my favorites to learn about. Not sure if any of them are Cooper, but they're my favorites to learn about. Are there any movies or TV shows on? He was very polite at all times, except when he threatened to kill them. Except when he told Florence Schaffner, all I have to do is connect this wire to this gadget here and we'll all be dead. or when he told Tina, I don't care what anybody does, I am not being taken alive, or when he was screaming or when they could hear him in the cockpit screaming at Tina that I'm going to blow the damn plane up when he was pissed about the government, when he was pissed about the refueling issues. I will blow the plane up. Like that. Yes. But other than that, he was nice. It's like, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln? Like, sure, he still scared the shit out of everybody, but he was nice about it. Doesn't make a difference, really. I mean, I suppose it's better than McCoy, or Heinemann one of the stewardesses had to be taken off the plane because she was in hysterics because Heinemann scared her so bad. But yeah, he politely threatened them. It's like, come on. I mean, come on. How was the play, Mrs. Lincoln? Yes, if Lauren Hall was Cooper, he deserves 7 movies about his life. No kidding. Like, I think if I could pick Cooper, if I could make anybody Cooper, I think Skip Hall would be the best Cooper because you've got his connections to JFK, which are legitimate. If Packer's watching, sorry, Packer, but I do love Skip. But like, Skip Hall was definitely involved in Skip Hall has almost made me. Like, I am still a lone gunman guy, but Skip Hall has made me realize that there were other things at play. Because Skip Hall was definitely involved in JFK. There's no doubt about that. Like, none. Okay. Do I count Trapnell as a copycat? No. Because, okay, so when I was originally writing the Copycat book, I had to really figure out what my criteria was for a copycat, because there were a lot of these hijacking. So my criteria was basically it was a ransom hijacking for profit, and your escape required you to jump out with a parachute. So now, for example, the Bulgarians, I forget their names. They're on the Wikipedia Copycat page that I made, but the Bulgarians, their plan was to land in like Alaska or somewhere, and then they were going to they had a person up there, they had an accomplice who was in like a bush plane or something. So they were going to like land this 727. They asked for parachutes, and they were going to land in like Canada or somewhere, and then they were going to get on a small plane and then fly to Soviet Union or somewhere. But of course, their plane, their hijacking happened in San Francisco, and the FBI had a gun battle on the plane with them. And Hop Sing from, if you've ever seen Bonanza, the Chinese cook character, was actually shot during that hijacking and wounded. He wasn't killed, but he was wounded. I think a passenger was killed. He was a train conductor or something, retired. But a passenger was killed. Hop Sing, the actor, was shot. The 2 hijackers were shot. I wonder if I have that picture of them. I mean, that was, and then the next day, like the very next day, was Francis Goodell's copycat, who was a real copycat. His hijacking was a day later. I don't know if I have that photograph of the guys being shot, but I mean, there's some nasty photos out there. But so is this my copycat? Did I make this one? I made a copycat graphic at some point. Yeah. Okay. So these are the guys who, well, okay. So there's the Bulgarians there. Yeah. So I don't consider them copycats. I don't know why I made that, but this might have been before I researched it and realized that they weren't going to jump out. But all these other guys were going to jump out. So that's what makes a copycat. And obviously the highlighted ones are the ones who did jump out. So there's my copycat graphic there. Now, Melvin Fisher, he is one of my canonical copycats, because he had the money strapped to his body, had the parachute on, and could have jumped out, but chickened out and got scared. So he doesn't really count. Yes. And Rob, good. You're right, Rob. Yes. He says, where's the hippie girl and the Black Panther guy? Well, see, like I said, they're not copycats. They did ask for parachutes, but yeah, Kathy Kirko is would Fisher have been caught? Yes. I think they already knew who he was while he was on the plane. I think they figured it out. Kathy Kirko, who, that's another thing. People, we have to remember that. It's not just Cooper. Kathy Kirko is still wanted for that hijacking. So she is at large. So there are actually two copycats who are out and about. Yes, Kathy Kirko is still an FBI most wanted after all these years. Oh, another freaking web app. Yep. So look here, I'll show you all this graphic here. This is our woman copycat hijacker, who is, well, she's not a copycat, but she was a extortionist hijacker. And they flew to Tunisia and her money was seized. What the flip? Where'd it go? Oops. Why didn't that save? All right, hang on. Sorry, people. Give me a second. There we go. I'm showing y'all Kathy Kirko, by the way, who is the only, her and DB Cooper are the only ones who are still at large. And there's a book called The Skies Belong to Us, which is about her. She was, I think, 19 years old at the time. So she's in Europe somewhere. I mean, if she's still alive, she is, I mean, she would only be, but she would be in her 70s, I guess, early 70s, I think. Well, no, the FBI. So Hugh says, I thought the FBI had a good idea of where Kathy was, but they cannot get an extradition order. So she was a celebrity in France. So yeah, France had a non-extradition thing. I forget what that's called, but they weren't going to extradite anybody. So she was actually a kind of a celebrity a little bit in Paris in the 70s. And then she went off somewhere and never seen again, probably in Switzerland or somewhere, but if she's still alive. But no, she's her boyfriend, Roger Holder, the Black Panther guy who was a Vietnam veteran, kind of nuts. He lived in Paris too for about 10 years, and he eventually turned himself in and went to prison. He was like, I'm tired of living abroad. I want to go home. And he died not that long ago. But yeah, so Cooper and Kathy Kirko are our two hijackers who are still at large. Sleutha, well, I know that you have a very clearly defined area that you believe Cooper landed in. What is this based on? The pressure bump. So basically we have the report. Anyway, we have the report of the pressure bump or the oscillations, which is Cooper on the stairs at 8:11, and then the pilots. So that the Northwest Airlines thought that 8:11 was the jump time. They conflated the oscillations and the pressure bump, but the oscillations and the pressure bump were different things. We know this from the crew. Anderson, the flight engineer, said that the oscillations happened. Radicek reported, we're getting some oscillations in the cabin rate of climb indicator. He must be doing something with the stairs back there. Then they talked about it for several minutes. They said a few minutes, several minutes. They were just talking about, they watched the oscillations continue happening, which are Cooper on the stairs, kind of bouncing around. And then they felt the pressure bump in their ears. And it was minutes later. So it wasn't 8:11. It was more like 8:13, 8:14, which puts him in the orchards, in between Battleground and Orchards, which is where I think he is. And that's where the FBI now think that's their modern drop zone, is in between Battleground and Orchards. Probably Brush Prairie or Hawkinson, him actually landing in that area, which is a good area to land in. Again, there was a skydiving center in Orchards at the time. So as far as this, a week from now, they'll have the new DB Cooper show about him escaping the wilderness or whatever. Well, I mean, if he lands in Orchards, then yeah, I mean, look, there's Orchards right there. That's a 1971 photograph of Orchards. That looks pretty flat to me, doesn't it? So yeah, Not exactly the wilderness. Skip Hall doesn't have a Wikipedia page. Well, he needs one. Yes. Elizabeth, if you want to read the Wikipedia page, then yes, you can read that. It's accurate as far as it can be. The Wikipedia page is pretty accurate. Did they record the exact time Tina joined the pilots? Yes. They did. Tina is in the cockpit 7:42, I think. So she was only back there for 6 minutes before she came in, because they said, "Oh, we have the stew with us now," and they gave her a headset, and she started talking to we have her describing the bomb and stuff. So be nice to have that audio. That audio exists, people. And there's a woman in outside Seattle who is the only person in the world who has these tapes, apparently. And of course, she doesn't want to part with them. So it's like, okay, great. Thanks. That's wonderful. Yes. Erica, wait. Would you ever consider doing a video on individual suspects? Well, see, okay, folks, go through my catalog. I think that this is what I do not like about Wikipedia. I mean, YouTube. One thing they have to fix is when you go to a YouTube page and you click on videos to see the videos somebody posted, like, people forget to click on the button for live. So because there's videos and then there's lives, right? And so they should all be the same, but they're not. So people miss my live videos. So Erica, if you go to my lives, go to my YouTube page or whatever, and go to live and scroll down, you'll see I did an entire video about Braden for 3 hours. Talked about Braden for nothing, but for 3 hours. Then we've got Skip Hall. We talk about Skip Hall for a couple hours. So it sucks because so many of my lives aren't seen because people just, I don't know why YouTube does that. It sucks. Your videos should be videos. They should not be separate. But I mean, there's no way to fix that either. And I mean, I've tried to fix that. It almost makes me want to re-upload my lives or whatever. So, and by the way, yeah, Kelly messaged me just now on Facebook. Our friend Kelly from our fantasy football league. From our Cooper. By the way, we have some great names in the Cooper Fantasy Football League. By the way, like Rekka Your Pekka, Flaps Down and Goals to Go. Good names. Bank Type Bandits, because Tina said they had bank type bands on the money. Has Ryan done suspect videos? Is water wet? Yeah, I need to do some suspect, actual content, I guess. But yeah, YouTube is inept sometimes. I don't know. I do not know why they don't fix it. That is so stupid. Somebody, let's see. Somebody asked me something I was getting at. 50 minutes of Rekka bashing. Well, I could do that. I cannot. Rekka is just crazy. So Cooper had about 30 minutes to get himself ready to jump. Yes. No, more than that. 40 minutes, really. I mean, 35 minutes, something like that. I mean, he was alone back there for long enough to put boots on or something. I mean, whatever was in his mystery bag, he had enough time to mess around with it. Do we have transcripts of the audio? Yes, on my website, norjack.org. You can read the transcripts of the audio for sure. Several different types of transcripts. So, oh, wonderful. Elizabeth says, I found you through Chris on Vlogging Through History and been slightly obsessed. Well, good. Chris is a good dude. I love Chris. He's a good friend. I was happy. I was like, hey man, I don't want to ask you this, but I knew you back when you had 30,000 subs and now you've got 500,000 subs. Would you kind of mind doing one of my videos? I gained about 500 subs through that. So that was pretty nice. That was pretty nice. But I need some more subs. Yeah. Like the button, click all of you, click like, it doesn't cost anything, or click subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. Click subscribe, click like, go to Facebook, type in official DB Cooper group. Come to join my group. Okay. On Facebook, Just click request on Facebook, refresh the page, and you're in. Don't have to wait for it. And click subscribe, click like button. Like people, this really, really, really helps the algorithms to do that. Okay. Good question. If you could know accurately one thing among his age, hometown, occupation, and height, what would you choose? Height, I think. Because like that would narrow, I mean, that would help a lot to know if we knew precisely how tall Cooper was, well, then that would help for sure. Because the thing about that is we can, thankfully, because of Cooper's age, their draft cards are online. So anytime you have a suspect who was born before 1928 or so, we can get access to their draft cards, which shows exactly how tall they were barefooted. Okay. So, I mean, like to the degree, like I think Sheridan Peterson was like 6'2" 3/4 inch tall. So we know exactly how tall these men were when they were grown adults, men. Now, some people can grow after they get, or if you're Ted Braden and you're 15 years old, but height would be the one for sure. That would occupation. Well, I guess hometown would help a lot, but I would say height because height. Well, depends on how big the hometown is. If it's New York City, it's one thing, but if it's, Alligator, Mississippi, then that narrows it down. And there is an Alligator, Mississippi. There's also a Hot Coffee, Mississippi. There's some good names down here. Did they scour the airport terminal ashtrays for Raleigh filter tips? Well, I don't know what that would have done. Occupation. I don't know. That's a good question though. I mean, hometown, like I said, hometown would help. If it just depends on how big it is, right? Like I said, if you don't want New York City or LA or Chicago or somewhere, but height would just help a lot. Get rid of a backlog of suspects. Like if he's 6'1", then you can get rid of Gossett, Braden, Skip. Hell, I mean, as far as height goes, let's see. Who do we have? Let me go through my handy. I have to always go through my handy. Whenever I think of suspects, I have to go through that's why I make these things. I make these like graphics for precisely so I can look at them. And because I forget the suspects who our main suspects are. So let's see. Okay. James Roman was about 5'11". Let's start from top to left. Top left, and then I'll do it like a typewriter. I'll start top left. And then like a typewriter, I'll go back to the left on each row. Let's see. James Roman's about 5'11". That's going to be Roger Strom, was about 6 feet tall. Melvin Wilson's about 5'11". Dwayne was a big guy. Dwayne was over 6 feet tall, I think. Milton Vordile, 5'10.5". Ted Braden, 5'8". Skip Hall, I've seen 5'11" on him. Langseth, I think the FBI files say he's 6 feet tall. Catalano was tall, about 6 feet. Lepsy was, I don't know how tall Lepsy was. Ragstraw was a big guy. Ragstraw is about 6'2". Who's that? Burnworth was tall, over 6 feet tall. His draft card is like, I don't know, 6'1", something like that. And then Peterson again, 6'2 3/4". Kofelt was 5'11". LD Cooper's 5'11". I don't know Lakich's height. Wait, I do know Lakich's height. He was taller than, he was maybe 5'11". Kenny Christensen, 5'8". Lee Seller was 5'11". William J. Smith's 5'8", maybe 5'9". McCoy was 5'11". Gossett's 5'10". Recca, I think, was maybe 5'9" or 5'10". Lyons is 6'1", and Barb Dayton is 5'8". So Tina Mucklow says, no females. Hey, that's transphobia. Barb Dayton is a chick. Was DB Cooper trans? Yes. I remember I had to ask that at CooperCon. I asked Ron Foreman about Barb. I said, did Barb still grow facial hair? Because like Cooper had sideburns, right? That's people often forget that about Cooper. Cooper had sideburns, either like mine that went down to the low ear or mid ear. So we're not quite. Tina says both. Tina has mid ear and low ear level. So he had sideburns. Now, Barb, if Barb was living as a woman at the time, would not have sideburns. So I asked Ron, I said, did Barb still like have facial hair? And he goes, oh yeah. It's weird. We go out camping sometimes. And when the kids were little, they'd see Barb shaving. And they're like, wow, what's Barb doing? So Barb was out there shaving. Ron's great. I love that photo. Speaking of Barb, do I have that photo of Nicole? Oh, I don't know if I do anymore. Somewhere. Nicole's listening. I wish I had that photo of you holding Barb. I'll have to try to find that of Nicole. Great photo for everybody. As I've told the story before, we were at CooperCon and we were packing up at CooperCon, and a couple things, crazy things happened. We saw that Mark Meltzer had left. There it is, right there. We saw that Mark Meltzer had left his Cooper 20, which is a fantastic Cooper 20, by the way. Mark had left his Cooper 20 there on stage, just sitting there. So we're like, oh my God, we got to take this Cooper 20 with us. And so Nicole, we said, hey, Nicole, put this in your purse. So Nicole did. And then as we're leaving, we're walking out of the place. And suddenly I go, oh my God. Because the Foremans had brought Barb Dayton to CooperCon, her ashes to CooperCon. They had left Barb. They just left Barb sitting there. So there's Nicole with a Cooper 20 and Barb Dayton's ashes. So yes, we got to. So yeah, and I don't think Ron cared. Ron was just like, she'll be okay. Barb will be okay in the museum. Just leave her there. So we ended up like tucking Barb Dayton. Barb spent a night in the Boeing Museum. We put her under a table. And so a great picture, Nicole. So there we go. So yeah, that's a Cooper. So we did take the Cooper 20 back to Mark, but yeah, Barb spent the night at the Boeing Museum. That's so sad. Well, do you know when and where CooperCon 2025 will be? Yes, it will be in Vancouver, Washington, on like whatever the weekend of like November 15th or whatever it is. We'll come to CooperCon, Tina, and we'd love to have the real Tina there. But this year we're going to, I'm pretty sure Brian Ingram's coming, pretty sure. And I'm trying to get Rob Hedy there. Honestly, can witness testimony be trusted at all? Yeah, sure. Because the witness test, like if you go to Norjack, my website, those 302, no, Nicole, we don't have a specific hotel yet. We'll get one, probably the same one where we were last time in Vancouver. But anyway, yeah, witness testimony. Those witnesses' testimonies were given minutes after the hijacking. So, I mean, they're accurate enough. And so, like, think about, Flo. Flo is talking to the FBI, and they're writing all this down, 15 minutes after she's on the plane with Cooper. And she's saying stuff like Latin descent. Well, I mean, she says Latin descent. I mean, how many of these guys look Latin? I mean, a few of them do, I suppose. But, Cooper needs to look, I mean, we've got Robert Gregory, who's a decent witness, saying that Cooper looked Mexican or Native American, partially. So, again, Flo looked this guy in the eyes and said he looked Latino of some sort. He was a Latin. And I tried to. Where's my picture? Where's my thumbnail for tonight? And see if he looks Latin enough. It looks more like Italian to me. This guy looks like Catalano, I think, a lot. Somebody says Flo looks like Katy Perry, but I don't know. This is supposed to be Tina approaching them, because Tina, when Tina had got done with the oxygen mask demonstration, and she comes down the aisle, and she sees Flo sitting Flo is supposed to be in the jump seat sitting there. And instead Flo is staring at her, sitting next to a passenger. And she mouths the word Tina. She goes, Tina, and points at the note that she had dropped on the ground because she got scared and dropped the note on the ground. But yeah. Da Vinci's Code says, I didn't know the 302s were so soon after. Yeah, those were taken immediately after they got off the plane. So, except for Tina's, Hollywood version of the Cooper hijacking where he's 50 times more handsome than in real life. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if these guys are handsome or not, but I don't know. I mean, yeah, like, what is ugly really? And it's hard to kind of, what exactly is an ugly Cooper, right? I mean, is this guy ugly? I don't know. Is this guy ugly enough to be Cooper? For my videos, I think my Cooper guy's ugly enough, right? Where is he? Sorry, folks, if you're still watching. I'm trying to upload this. There he goes. I mean, he's not particularly attractive, but anyway, both of those two were too attractive. Well, I mean, Flo is not too. What do you mean Flo's? Flo was a beauty queen. Flo was hot. I mean, Flo's too attractive. Flo was definitely. Flo is cute. What are you talking about? Flo was the smoke show. I mean, have y'all seen Flo? Let's see. Did I manage to track down that coin that Skip gave his grandkids to? Didn't know. Not yet. Not yet. Don't have the coins yet. I'm waiting on Packer. That's his thing, right? I wonder if I can play the audio. By the way, for y'all, I wonder if I can upload audio to this, because I have audio of Dwayne Weber talking to some of y'all. Many of y'all haven't heard this, but suspect Dwayne Weber. Hide the kids, by the way. If you have small children, this is not safe for work. But I have audio of Dwayne talking to what's her face, Joe. So let me see. I've never tried to play audio on this show, so let me just. It might blow your eardrums. I don't know how loud it's going to be, but we're going to see if it'll play. Okay. All right. So I have to turn it up. All right. So again, hide your kids, hide your wife. This is not safe for work audio, but we'll play it.
Punishment for anything that I've done. I'll take my fucking medicine, or you don't have to worry about it. So shut your fucking ass up. You've already done enough to convince me fully what has to be done. Tell you what, girl, if there's any goddamn punishment for anything that I've done, I'll take my fucking medicine, or you don't have to worry about it. So shut your fucking ass up. You've already done enough to convince me fully what has to be done.
That's Dwayne's audio is something else. Dwayne Weber was a kook. What software are you using to broadcast? This is on StreamYard. Is that from a real hijacking or what? No, that's Dwayne Weber in jail talking to his wife, and he's mad at her. He's yelling at her because I don't know what he's yelling at her about, but I think he thinks that she smashed up his business or something. I don't know. Yeah, I know it's hard to understand. It's low volume. I'll have to crank it up. I don't know if I could. That was under the background music, so I don't know if I can upload it as an actual, like, it's not a video clip. So, okay, yeah. I'd have to make it a video clip to upload it. That stinks. Anyway, but yeah, it's hard to hear. I'll try and work on that so it's not people couldn't hear that. Let's see. Sounds too potty mouth to be Cooper. Yeah. Cooper didn't. I mean, we don't think he swore. In Tucson has him yelling, I think, damn, or something like that. I think I forget what Tusaw has him yelling, but when he was really pissed, Cooper got really upset. Tina did say he was not nervous. He was very nice and yada yada. But like she does. Tina's an empath. The woman did social work her whole life. She's a sweetheart, became a nun. She always wanted to see the best in people. I mean, she even prayed for Cooper. She was like, I didn't know where he came from and what put him on the plane, but I prayed for him the whole time. Like she's a sweetheart. But you do see her though in the video. She goes, although he was impatient a few times, he never tried to harm myself. But that's her being like, her mother taught her not to say anything bad about somebody. So I think that, she got scared. She definitely got scared a few times, especially during the refueling, and when he didn't get his knapsack. That's when Radicek said that he heard Cooper yelling, "I'll blow the damn plane up. Where's my knapsack?" Yet he didn't ask for one. So weird. He's like bitching about, "Where's my knapsack? You gave me this money bag. Where's my knapsack?" Weird. I don't know why he didn't say, "Hey, I still want a knapsack. Why don't you go grab one from some kid in the airport?" Knapsack meaning backpack, of course. Saying negotiable currency is debated. Yeah, that's such a weird line. Why would a knapsack, Tina, is a backpack, like a school, like you wear to school, That's the way they used to call them, a knapsack, back in those days. I think they didn't call them backpacks, like school backpacks. They'd say, "Oh, I'm taking my knapsack to school." Negotiable currency. Yeah, that is, God, Cooper definitely used a qualifier. He either said, "I want it in U.S. currency or American currency." One of those two. And that is a weird, I can't make heads or tails of that because it's hard for me to imagine any American ever saying that. We would just say, "Give me $200,000. Give me $200,000 bucks." It sounds, yes, Justin says it sounds so Canadian. I agree. It's my understanding that people who live in Vancouver, Canada, they have to specify a lot of times because they go into Seattle a lot. They specify U.S. currency, American currency. They have to like delineate which currency they want. Whereas American, we just go, America. We just go, "I want bucks. I want money, dollars." What if he was a nerd like Milton? Maybe. Maybe he was trying to speak proper to throw people off his identity. Perhaps. How do you request 302s? They're on my website. Dodge Norjack, NORJAK.org. Go to witness testimony. They're there. And the rest of them are on the FBI. If you Google DB Cooper FBI Vault, they're all in there. He said fuzz was that super common. So odd. No, fuzz, if he said fuzz, that's another thing. Flo remembered him saying, "I want, no funny stuff or I'll do the job. Oh, and no fuss." Fuzz sounds way more appropriate in that terminology. Like fuzz is like an old gangster way of saying coppers, right? And the coppers, see? No fuzz, see? That's how Cooper was talking. So, yeah, I think he says fuzz, not fuss, because Anderson in the HBO documentary says that Cooper said no fuzz, which would make sense, like no coppers, right? No fuss doesn't really make. I don't know what fuss means. Maybe Flo didn't know what fuzz meant. Possibly, maybe Flo just meant. Maybe Flo thought she said fuss, and because fuzz makes way more sense, right? Saying, I want $200,000 and 4 parachutes before 5 p.m. when we land. No fuzz. Oh, thank you, Nicole. Nicole says that the Tusaw book says no fuzz also. So yeah, I think it's fuzz. Fuzz makes way more sense. Oh, Dr. John, you do not look like DB Cooper. Trust me, I know. Well, John's been at it a long time. John had a great suspect for a long time. John might have a new suspect who's good, but I liked the old suspect. He was just too short. His old suspect was really good. I liked him a lot. I would love for him to have been a real suspect, John. I liked your guy a lot, but as we learned, he was just too short. All right. No fuss is no, yeah, I mean, no fuss. I know what no fuss means, you know. Yes, Tina says the money started with L, which means the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco. The money came from, most of the bills, again, on my website, I have all 10,000 serial numbers listed. Yeah, most of them start with L, which does mean most of them are 1969 L notes, 69 and 63 generally. You do not look like DB Cooper. Trust me, I know. Yeah, I heard you the first time, John. You don't have to say it twice. But no, I liked your old suspect better than your new one. Honestly, I just think he's the old suspect was just too short. I know, bummer. Would have been great. Would have been a good suspect. I liked him a lot. No, that is not the real Tina. What's the next 302 release? What's the schedule? Well, they generally release them in the first week of each month. Usually on like the first or the second. But they missed one for the first time ever. It's kind of sad. Like Cooper nerds, these 302 releases are like Easter eggs, right? You get a little like, it's like an advent calendar. You get like your little advent, your little treats. We get Cooper treats every month from the government. We love our Cooper treats, almost like a Kit Kat with kibble or whatever, catnip. You're throwing little kitten treats. These are our little our little treats for Cooper nerds. And we didn't get one. I didn't get my treat this month. It kind of made me mad. So we didn't have a Vault 102, which again, the vaults are going to be, they're mostly suspect files, which the only real benefit about the suspect files generally the only like actual like academic, I suppose, if you look at this academically, this case, the only benefit that suspect files have, when I say suspect files, I mean like, again, if you go on my website, go to norjack.org, look on suspects, you can see what are suspect files, right? Which is the FBI's files on these particular suspects. The only real benefit to suspect files is if they show the photographs to the witnesses. So you'll have every now and then, like for example, the one I showed earlier, let me get it back up. The one I showed earlier of Burnworth, these all come from recently, like Vault like 99 or whatever. So like you can see what they say. So like this is helpful, right? Because this is all these people. This is again Flo and Tina saying that using Cooper's looks as a metric to eliminate suspects, which means he was noticeably unattractive if they're using that as a metric. So things like that help. Or for example, Robert Gregory saying the jawline, cheeks, and nose bore some resemblance. So again, this is good evidence, right? This is good testimony. That, okay, well, this is what Cooper's jawline is going to look like, and his nose, small nose, right? So that's really the benefit of everything. Do you think the FBI over-redact? Yeah, sure. I mean, it's like interns doing the redacting, so they're not like. I mean, yeah, they're going to err on the side of over-redacting than under-redacting. I mean, as I said before, there are some FBI files where literally the entire page is redacted, and it's like, what? The word "the" is even redacted? Come on. And stupid ones, like sometimes it's like, did these redactors not get enough sleep or something because the night before? Because one of them, it was a woman describing a guy on a bus who looked like DB Cooper. She goes, oh, there was a guy on a bus, looked like DB Cooper. Just like a nothing burger of a file. As you're scrolling, you come across these dumb ones, right? And what was redacted was like, well, describe the man you saw on the bus. And she's like, oh, well, he was about 6'2" or whatever, and it says age. Age was redacted. Like, so the age of a person who's not even like a real person is redacted. Why would they do that? Why would they redact the age of a description of an unknown person? Like, you're supposed to redact personal information. Like, that's crazy. When did Bill Mitchell find out DB Cooper was a hijacker? On the Bill Mitchell found out in 2002. Somebody's pulling your leg, Tina. No, Bill found out on the runway. Bill found out on the runway. Bill was all of them found out on the runway. So the passengers get off the plane. That'll be in an upcoming episode, part 5 or something, probably. Part 2 is coming out tomorrow. I'm pretty sure. But anyway, the passengers get off the plane and they're lingering down by the car, right? So if we look at, obviously this picture here, this is the only, well, there's a second shot of this as well. This was a telescopic lens, got these pictures. There's a second photograph, which is similar, but you can see on the far left that there's the crummy Dodge Dart, which was an undercover Seattle PD homicide detective's car. And you can barely see right there. You can barely see in on the left there. You can see in his trench coat is Al Lee, who was the chief pilot for Northwest. And I think I've got a little graphic I made of Al Lee in his Dodge Dart. I'll show that to everybody. Recently, I made this. I like it. Where is it? Oh, this will grind Flyjack's gears. Of course it will. Yeah, here we go. There we go. My little animation of Al Lee there. He was wearing a trench coat. They said, "Hey, make sure you're not wearing your pilot's uniform. Cooper might think you're a police officer." He said, "Well, I'm wearing a trench coat and slacks." So he was communicating with them with the walkie-talkie on the plane. But anyway, they get off and they go stand there. Actually, the airplane is not huge. That's a small airplane. Actually, 727 is tiny. So anyway, so passengers get off this. This is before this picture is taken, as far as I know, before the passengers get off. This picture was taken while they're still on the plane. We kind of figured out the timing of this photograph a while back, and Cooper's still the passengers are still on the plane. So anyway, the passengers go and they go stand by that car. They go stand by Ali's car, and they're like, "What the hell is going on here? Why are we a mile away from the terminal? What the hell?" And a few of the passengers notice parachutes. And they're like, "Are those parachutes?" Now, some of their suspicions had already been raised when Tina starts dragging a bank bag down the aisle past them. They're like, "What in the flip?" But so they straight up ask Al Lee. They say, "Hey, what's going on? Have we been hijacked?" In fact, I'll read that from the book. How about that? Story time. We'll since y'all are still, I'm gonna wrap it up soon, but I'll read from the book here. Okay. Disembarking the aircraft via a stairs truck that pulled up and connected to the front exit, the passengers found themselves standing in drizzling rain over half a mile from the terminal. Confused, wet, and cold, the only vehicles the passengers could see in their vicinity were a fuel truck hooked up to the aircraft and a Dodge Dart parked not far from the stairs truck. Standing by the Dart was Al Lee, director of flying for Northwest Airlines in Seattle. Lee had volunteered to act as a courier for the ransom and was in communication with the cockpit via a walkie-talkie. Let me see. Let me get rid of that. It says here, where'd I go? Directed by Lee to stand behind the Dart, the perplexed and shivering passengers watched him repeatedly handing items from the car to the same blonde stewardess that they had witnessed carrying that white sack down the aisle. They continued watching her as she made several trips in and out of the aircraft. A few of the more observant passengers curiously noted that the items that she was ferrying aboard the aircraft were parachutes. Eventually, one of the passengers bluntly asked Lee if they had been hijacked, and he responded in the affirmative. Overhearing this was Bill Mitchell, a 20-year-old college sophomore at the University of Oregon. Looking around at the other passengers standing alongside him in the drizzling rain, Mitchell realized that one of his fellow passengers wasn't among them. Missing from the group was the strange man who sat across from him in row 18. So there we go. Good question, Tessa. Hello, Ryan. Hello, Tessa. How long did it take for the authorities to board the plane after it landed in Reno? Minutes, like just essentially. But there's a great. I would love to hear the audio of this, but basically, when they land, as soon as they land, they're like, "We got to know if this guy's still on board. This is the crew, Scott." Scott's like, "Screw this," and like they're hearing like somebody's yelling at them. Somebody at the FBI or somebody's like, "Stay in the cockpit. Stay in the cockpit. Do not touch anything. Stay in the cockpit. Do not touch anything." And they're like, we're just gonna go check. And this is actually in the transcripts. You can read these on my website. Captain Scott's like, we're gonna go check anyway. And they go back there, and Scott's yelling, "Sir, we need instructions, sir. Sir, we need some instructions. Can you help us out?" And then they open the curtain. He peeks behind the curtain, and Cooper's gone, and nobody there. So Scott walks back to the cockpit and says, "I think our friend must have left us sometime earlier." That's what the Radachek claims the quote. Radachek loves to say, "I think our friend just left us" when Cooper jumped. But that quote is actually, "Radachek, we got you, buddy. I love you, Radachek, but you know, we have the real transcripts." And it was actually Scott who said, "I think our friend must have left us at some point. He's not here anymore. We'll be going now." And like the guy is still yelling, "Don't touch anything. Stay in the cockpit. Don't touch anything." And Scott just goes, "We won't need a stairs truck. We're going out the back stairs. Say thank you." Because there's still a bomb on board, perhaps, maybe, right? So they hustle off. And as they're walking down the aisle to get off the stairs, Rommel comes up. Now, Rommel is a canine with Reno, their bomb sniffing dog. His name was Rommel, which is a German kind of. It's funny, I had a German Shepherd named Rommel, the good German general, right? So I used to have a German Shepherd named Rommel. So I love that. When I learned that the canine who was on board was named Rommel, it was a German Shepherd, of course. So Rommel runs up on the stairs, and they're like, "Whoa!" So right as they're going down, Rommel comes running up with the canine bomb sniffing guy, right? So like Tessa, they're walking off after looking to see if Cooper's there. As the first thing on board is a canine officer and Rommel. And I think I have a picture of Rommel somewhere. But anyway, so I wonder if I have that. I'll try to find that for people. Where is Rommel, the dog? Do I have that? Surely I do. Maybe it's in my Reno photos. I've actually been talking to the woman who took these photographs, by the way. Her name is Marilyn Newton. It was a female photographer who took photographs, like, for example, this one here of Tina and Radachek. Was Marilyn Newton was her name. She was a photographer for the Reno Evening Standard, I guess. You got Tina holding people think she's holding a Bible, but she's holding Mary, Queen of Scots, a biography. And she's also holding tissues. For those who think she was not affected. Oh, look at Radachek, so sweet. Like, I just noticed this for the first time ever. Radachek is holding some of her tissues, so in his hand. I think Radachek was sweet on Tina. Radachek gave her a bottle of cologne, or cologne. Radachek gave her a bottle of perfume as a gift after the hijacking, as a thank you. But let's see. Oh man, where is that photograph? Wish I had that. I really thought I had that photograph. Anyway, Rommel. So Rommel comes on board, and they get like, "Oh crap, a dog!" And the dog does not start sniffing for bombs. What does the dog do? What's the first thing the dog does? He goes and he eats the crew meals. Remember, Cooper said, "I want crew meals to be brought aboard for the crew," because what happens is Tina starts telling Cooper, "Hey," this is like when they're circling over Seattle. Tina says, "We've been on this plane for we started our day in Minneapolis 8 hours ago. Pilots aren't supposed to fly this long. They're probably getting fatigued." And Cooper goes, "Well, I've got something for them." And he's like, I got some pills. So Cooper pulls out his drugs, his Benzedrine, which is amphetamine, Adderall, essentially. He pulls out his Benzedrine, and he goes, well, they can have some of my pills. And she goes, they would never take that, sir. And she goes, okay. He goes, okay. And puts them back in his pocket. And he goes, well, okay, if they won't take it, how about some food? So he says, I want crew meals to be brought aboard. Something interesting about that that's kind of like, is he asks, and I just thought about this for the first time. This is funny, live streams, you think about these things. Cooper, he ordered 4 crew meals. Now, remember, there were 6 crew members. Captain Scott, co-pilot Bill Radicek, flight engineer Harold Anderson, Tina, Flo, Alice. 6. He asked for 4. So he knew all along that he was going to keep Tina. That's what I think. I think he knew that he had to have a hostage back there with him when they took off. I mean, obviously. So yeah, he orders 4 crew meals. That should have been a sign, right? He orders 4. He knew he was going to let Flo and Alice go. He was going to keep Tina. So that's kind of creepy. He knew all along. Anyway, so the crew meals though, Tina's from Trevose, Pennsylvania, Dodge. She's from, that's Bucks County. That's just north of Philadelphia. She's a Philly girl. She has that accent too, if you hear her. Anyway, so the crew meals, they don't eat the meals. They're not going to eat it. And the dog ate it. So Radicek says as they're backing up and they're like, so Tina walks in. Now the galley was full. So the galley, which is where you put meals, was full because the next day they were supposed to fly to Miami from Seattle. It was a nonstop flight from Seattle to Miami, I believe. That was their next day. So they were looking forward to going to Miami. Like, hey, we're going to Miami. You know, and remember this crew's from they're living in Minneapolis. It's cold, right? November. So they're looking forward to going to Miami. And so that was the cruise flow, and then we're going to go to Miami. So in Minneapolis that morning where they took off, they had already preloaded the meals for the next day. So the galley, the fridge essentially is full of meals. So Tina has nowhere to put the meals when she goes out to get the crew meals. So she puts them on the first row of first class, which is right as she walks in the door of the plane. And that's where they stayed. And I actually know something else about the meals, but that's in my book only. That's comes straight from Tina. So something about the meals. But anyway, yes, somebody's talking about getting a script for Benzedrine. Well, Benzedrine had just been made illegal that year. So in 71, Benzedrine, part of the war on drugs with Nixon, was to the war on drugs was Benzedrine became a Schedule 1 narcotic. But it had been, like I said, prescription for housewives who wanted to lose weight. It's Adderall, essentially, like I said. I mean, now, remember, amphetamine works differently for people who have ADHD, like myself. Do you think I have ADHD? Really? Duh. Of course I do. Like I have the world's worst case of it. Anyway, so yes, I take lots of medication for it. I have to. Otherwise, I'd be out of my mind. But if someone who has ADHD like I do takes amphetamine, I mean, the bottle for Adderall literally says amphetamine, right? I can take a nap on it. Like I get sleepy on amphetamine. It lowers me, right? It makes me sleepy. I mean, the whole point is like, that's the whole point of I guess somebody back in the day, it's kind of like when they figured out that like some kind of heart medication like fixes ED. That's where Viagra came from, like a side effect. Well, at some point, somebody realized, wait a second, people who have ADHD, when they take speed, they come down. It's a downer. So like Elizabeth says, you can't, Ryan. I have the worst, and I can take a nap an hour after taking it. Same thing. So, but whereas if somebody who doesn't have ADHD takes it, it's literally speed. It's amphetamine, right? So, I mean, there is some thought that Larry Carr thinks Cooper was ADHD, and I can smell ADD coming off DB Cooper. There's no doubt about it. So, I remember seeing someone joke that if they had been if they had given Napoleon Vivance, we'd be speaking French in Berlin right now. No kidding. I mean, it makes you wonder. Yeah, somebody mentions. Where did it go? Yes. Skip Hall was a big speed addict. Yes. That's another one of the vortexy things about Skip Hall is we know he had Benzedrine. I mean, literally, like, he was arrested for it. I think that's right. Or I think actually, I don't think he was arrested for it, but during one of his arrests in the 60s for one of his many things he was doing, he was noted in the police report or whatever as having Benzedrine. And then, of course, he becomes a meth cook. I mean, this guy becomes Walter White. Oh, and he maybe was involved in JFK's assassination. I'll just say he was. And then the DB Cooper thing will be cool if it was Skip. I mean, you know. All right. He was Breaking Bad. Vivance here. Yeah, I'll admit, yeah. Vivance and Adderall daily for me. I know it's the only thing that keeps me. See, it's wearing off by now. You can see I'm all jittery and stuff, you know. But we're having fun. None of us would be here today if it wasn't for the FBI destroying DB Cooper's DNA evidence. Probably not. No, Cooper was not eating. That's another thing about the pills is, you know, it is an appetite suppressant for sure. So, yeah, Cooper, very low maintenance as far as, I mean, he's on the plane for, well, you know, Cooper's hijacking is not the longest and it's not the shortest. I wonder if I have that graphic somewhere. There it is. Yep. So let's compare. All right. Yeah. So Cooper's is looks like Rob, Hedy, and LaPointe's hijacking were each about 2.5 hours long. Rob's is 3 hours. LaPointe's is 2.5. Cooper's comes out to, what was that, roughly 5 hours is Cooper. Now, Heinemann's is the longest. Heinemann is, 10 a.m. to 4 a.m. So what is that? I'm not good at math. 16 hours, I guess. Pretty long. Max was long too. So yeah, that's pretty cool graphic I made there. That's on my website, norjack.org. If you want to look at that better, go to the copycat section on my website and you'll see that graphic. But yeah. 18 hours, yep. Yes, and he was worried. That's a good, Elizabeth, good thought there. That's 100% correct. Elizabeth says that he was probably worried if he ordered one, they'd poison it. And yeah, in fact, Cooper in the 302s, if you go read on my website, Tina's like, I tried to give him food. I offered him food and drink. I kept saying, do you want something to drink or eat? And he kept saying no. And Mac, as long as Mac was on the plane, what was that? Geez, let me pull it up again. Mac was on the plane 405 to 250. So what is that? 11 hours or so. Mac said that he never took any. I asked him, it says the benefit of having Mac on speed dial. I can send Mac a text message and he'll text me back. And I say, hey, Mac, I asked him, I said, hey, did you drink anything? Oh my God. Do I have to answer McCoy questions? Jesus. Okay. Anyway, I asked him, I said, hey, Mac, did you drink anything or eat anything on the plane? He goes, no. I said, well, why not? He goes, because I thought they'd poison me. And I mean, that's obviously, I think, why Cooper didn't either. And we have examples of stewardesses doing this. They drugged, God, I always forget his name. Shit. Somebody will know it. I forget his name. I'm having a bad day today. Anyway, they drugged, damn it. They drugged one of the guys. one of the copycat hijackers, Glenn Tripp. Glenn Tripp, yes. They drugged Glenn Tripp, and they drugged him. So I think that's why Cooper didn't do it. And I imagine that Cooper took a drink out of the sink when he went to the bathroom. That'd be smart. It's probably, I mean, if he probably went to go pee, but probably took a drink out of the sink too. That'd be my guess. Because I mean, he's smoking cigarettes. He's gonna be thirsty. Oh my God. Okay, I'm gonna take a drink. I got 6 minutes to go for 3 hours, and then I'll quit. But I'm gonna take a drink. But then I'll answer a McCoy question as fast as I can. Let me see how fast I can debunk McCoy. Okay. This person named Tina says, I'm sorry, but McCoy looks identical to DB Cooper. It's ridiculous. I can't believe Tina said that's not him. Other than Tina saying no, why else did they dismiss that possibility? Well, it wasn't just Tina, for one thing. Every eyewitness said it wasn't him. But let's go through the litany. Okay. McCoy had blue eyes. McCoy had less hair than Cooper did. McCoy was shorter than Cooper. Probably. McCoy's 5'10", roughly. But McCoy was home the next morning already. It's almost an impossibility. He was home the next morning. He was almost probably at his class. The classes he took at college, he was in college. The ones that were on November 24th didn't take roll, sadly. But he was there the day before. The ones that did take roll, he was there. So he was there the day before at school. We have credit card receipts of him filling up his car in Provo on the day after the hijacking. So he's back at home. Again, he's back home in the morning for the hijacking. He'd invited people to his house for Thanksgiving. Remember, Thanksgiving is the day after the hijacking. He has people at his house. Okay. He invited exchange students to come hang out with him the morning. I mean, who's going to do that? McCoy had a speech impediment. McCoy could not talk. He had a lisp. So McCoy had something wrong with his mouth, and they had to do surgery on his mouth. I forget exactly what they did, but the man had a permanent speech impediment. It's a lisp. He had a high-pitched lisp, like this a little bit. They had a lisp, and he had a high-pitched voice. So when he's on the phone with the pilots for his hijacking in April, okay, when they land, we have the FBI files. We have 302s from that one. The pilot says, we think the hijacker was disguising his voice. He sounded so funny. That's just how he talked. So that's just, we have voice like this. So Cooper had a low voice, and a Midwestern voice. I got no accent, low voice, spoke articulately and intelligently. If Tina Mucklow is hearing, I am a grudge against your airline, miss, and just have a grudge. No, it's, I don't have a grudge against your airline, miss, so just have a grudge, So he literally could not talk properly. So that's another knock on McCoy. Didn't have a turkey neck at all. We have pictures of McCoy when he was arrested. He's very fit. McCoy was in his late 20s. All of his eyewitnesses, if you go look at the 302s from McCoy, just like we have, they look exactly the same as Cooper's 302s, because that's what FBI files look like. They all say late 20s. I think the oldest you'll see McCoy is 30, one of the stewardesses. Cooper's all mid 40s, even older. Okay. So people can say, oh, McCoy looked old for back then. Well, no. People look their age relative to the time period. So they knew what a 45-year-old man looked like, and they knew what a 25-year-old man looked like back then. And they all said McCoy looked like his late 20s. McCoy was a nervous wreck. His makeup was dripping off his face. He was sweating so badly. He was panicked. He was like, oh my God. Because he was not a criminal. He was not used to doing this. Okay. He's panicking. McCoy locked himself accidentally in the bathroom of the plane. Bang, bang, bang. Had to have a stewardess. This is the hijacker. Had to have a stewardess come let him out. He was so nervous. He somehow got stuck in the bathroom. He left his ransom note in the airport terminal where he had been sitting. Okay. Somebody, when they board, a gate agent walks on board waving an envelope in the air. Oh, did somebody left this in their chair in the terminal at the gate? Who? And he goes, oh my God, and jumps up and says, don't read that. Grabs it. McCoy was such an obvious hijacker. They knew he was hijacking the plane right after they took off, before he began the hijacking. Now compare that to Cooper, who the passengers never knew they were being hijacked. McCoy was such an obvious hijacker. Before he began the hijacking, they were already diverting the plane. The pilots called down and said, hey, we got this dude back there who we're pretty sure he's a hijacker. We're going to make up a mechanical difficulty. And we're going to land in Grand Junction, Colorado. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a mechanical difficulty, and we're going to go land in Grand Junction. And McCoy goes, oh, crap. I've been found out. McCoy's not stupid. He's like, oh, shit. So that's when he begins the hijacking. He knew they were onto him. So McCoy's a nervous wreck. He has no turkey neck. He is just, I mean, he's a nervous wreck. He was a fanboy. McCoy wrote a term paper on Cooper. Okay. He did not shut up about the hijacking. In the McCoy 302s, they're talking to witnesses. Like, he talked incessantly about the Seattle hijacking. Like, it's preposterous, really. It's just dumb. Yes, thank you. Hit the like button, people, please. Anyway, but yeah, McCoy's preposterous. So people keep talking about Cooper being left-handed, by the way. I do like that theory because, again, as I've said, especially if the bomb's fake, Cooper had a choice because he was the second to last aboard, we think. Bill Mitchell, Robert Gregory says he was the last aboard, but I don't know. Robert Gregory gets a little bit of things wrong. I think Bill's pretty confident he was the last aboard. And I trust Bill because I can talk to Bill. Bill's like, I was late. I was last aboard. And so Cooper would have had the choice between right side of the plane, left side of the plane. He chooses right side of the plane to sit on the right side. And which means that because he's going to have his briefcase bomb in the window seat, wherever he sits, right? So he sits on the right side of the plane, and which means his briefcase is to his right. He leaves his right hand in the briefcase almost at all times. He's smoking with his left hand, pointing at things with his left hand, yada, yada, because his hand's just in the briefcase bomb, right? Well, if I had a choice between, do I want my dominant hand free for 3 hours or I'm left-handed, or my right hand free? Well, I want my left hand free so I can do whatever I'm doing, right? Right. If I have to write a note or something, I mean, whatever. So, I mean, I could be wrong. But I mean, who knows? Who really knows if he's right-handed or left-handed? But to me, I've asked, Mac was left-handed. I asked Mac, I said, did you consciously pick where to sit on the plane? He goes, yeah. I said, I sat because I wanted to be able to point my gun, because he's left-handed shooter too. He said, I want to be able to point my gun down the aisle because I'm a lefty. So I sat on the right side of the plane so I could lean down, so I could do like this. So we know hijackers would think about these things, and of course you do. So, I mean, if the bomb was fake, now if the bomb's real, I want my dominant hand. But yeah, Justin, I agree. I'm lefty too. I mean, yes, I'm left-handed. Justin says I definitely would smoke with my left and secure briefcase with right. Absolutely. I mean, if it's a dud, especially. And again, even if it was real, it wasn't armed, I don't think, because if all it takes to blow the bomb is wires touching, my hand is not going to be in a bomb with turbulence or whatever. I mean, that was for effect, I think. No, Bill Mitchell was not on the plane when Cooper boarded. Bill was the last to board, pretty sure. Now, movies, like if you watch the Netflix documentary or whatever, that they show Bill like looking at Cooper boarding the plane or whatever. But no, Bill did not think Cooper. Bill thought Cooper was already on the plane. When Cooper released the passengers, why didn't the crew also disembark? Well, because he could have seen them do that. I mean, he could have blown the plane up. I mean, he had a bomb, and there was never really a time where there weren't. He either always had Tina back there with him, or when Tina was out front getting things, the other girls were sitting. Well, so Flo, while Tina is for the most part, but the Alice and Flo get released about 6:40, and passengers are gone at 6. So for about 40 minutes, they're just chilling out. And Flo, what's funny? I think it's kind of cute. So Flo and Tina were assigned to the tourist cabin. We call that coach now. Alice was a senior stewardess, so she got to serve first class, which is fewer passengers, right? So Tina and Flo are in the tourist cabin. It's almost like, I think about like the Titanic or something. Like you have your class sections. Like Flo probably wants to get this far away from the bomb. This is after the passengers get off. Flo is sitting at the front seat of the tourist cabin. So like where Flo is chilling out is as far away as she can be from Cooper while still in her cabin. Even though there's no passengers to serve, she is sitting at the tourist cabin. She could have easily just gone sat up by first class, right? But she stuck to her post, and she remained at her station and is sitting in tourist cabin, first row of tourist cabin, of course. And Alice is sitting in the jump seat at the front of the plane, right next to the cockpit, outside the cockpit. That's where they sat for about 40 minutes. And eventually Alice is like, this is stupid. And Alice goes trotting back there, and she picks up Flo and says, hey, can we leave? You know, and they say sure. Pete's guide says, did any passengers suspect a hijacking while they were in the air? A few of them later on said that, but I think the only realistic thought was, I know that the Simmons, Barbara and Richard, they did see Alice act weird. So, and they said that there's video of them saying this to the press like immediately afterwards. Wish I had that video clip. Maybe I do. No, I don't. But anyway, so Barbara and Richard are like, they said that they saw Alice. So Alice calls up there. If you watched my video recently, Alice calls up there and says, hey, do you want coffee? And they go, oh, we're being hijacked. And they like, we saw a brown-headed stewardess, this would have been Alice for them, take a call, and then she turned white as a ghost and gulped. And like, so they were already kind of weirded out a little bit, like, what's that about? And then when they continue past Seattle, and they didn't land in Seattle, their first thought was, well, Barbara says, she told Richard, she goes, did we get on the wrong plane? Like, where are we going? You know, are we going to Vancouver or something? Canada, you know, what are we doing? And they're like, she goes, my first thought was, you know, well, maybe we're being hijacked. But then the pilot came on and said, oh, it's technical difficulties. And we started circling Seattle. So I was like, okay, well, that makes more sense, right? So I think the only one who may have suspected anything while they're in the air was going to be Barbara Simmons, I think. That's just my take on it. Yeah. Bill Rollins, right. Bill says Radicek stated he and the flight crew could have exited out of emergency ropes out the cockpit window, but they decided to not leave Tina on the plane. That's correct. If you read the audio transcripts, they actually sent them when the pilots were given maps and charts. So when the crew meals were brought aboard, flight maps and other things were brought aboard, including, I guess, stuck in one of the flight maps. I guess they probably like hid it or something, but were instructions from Boeing on how to escape from the cockpit. You could do certain things to push the glass out. And a month later, in that hijacking, that was the first Copycat hijacking, that's exactly what the pilots did. The pilots climbed out the front via ropes. Yes. So there is audio of them saying, hey, did you get those, the instructions from Boeing about how to get out? And they go, yeah, we got those. But they didn't want to leave. Ryan, are you still working on getting additional audio clips like I have in the intro? I mean, yeah, only one woman has them. And she's belligerent about it. So I guess she's going to have to die, and maybe her heirs will give them to us. I mean, we've offered money, significant money, for the entire hijacking on audio, because it is on audio. Who is this woman? She worked for Northwest Airlines, and we have 2 clips. In fact, can I play them? Do I have those audio clips? Don't. I do have passenger William J. Murphy giving a great line. Let me see if I can. I hope we can hear this. Let me see if it'll play.
Could you tell us what you saw, sir?
I didn't see a damn thing.
Were you in the front or the back?
I was in the forward portion of the plane. I saw nothing. I know nothing. I was treated well, and everything was wonderful as far as I was concerned until we landed.
When did you first learn there was a hijacking involved?
I did not know until we got off the plane.
I like that guy. I know nothing. I saw nothing. It's like Colonel Clink from I Know Nothing. But I like him a lot. But that's William J. Murphy was an engineer, and I forget what he did some pretty cool stuff. But anyway, for those who haven't seen this audio, here's good audio. I hope the volume works.
36 hours after the skyjacking.
Can't play that clip because I'll get a copyright thing. Stupid. Anyway, how did she get them? We don't know how she got them. It's like a big Sergeant Schultz. Thank you. Say Colonel Clink. Sergeant Schultz. Do any of the audio clips have someone saying this dude's left-handed? No. That's just a theory of mine. I mean, again, likelihood he's left-handed is low because it's only 10% of people, but I don't know. It strikes me weird to leave your dominant hand idle for 3 hours. Robert Stack will come back and haunt you. You're damn right. Unsolved Mysteries, man. I had to edit out a bunch of stuff from my McCoy video when I played of Robert Stack. I see what you wrote there, Pogo. That's funny. DB Cooper was never real. It was a made-up character just given a name. What do you mean he wasn't real? He was a real person. Dan Cooper was his alias. The media messed it up and said DB Cooper. Daniel Bard Cooper was the real guy's name. He was a Vietnam veteran. Skip was left-handed, by the way. Yes, left-handed suspects. We're not sure on Verdal, but I think so. We've got Verdal eating left-handed in the videos with him eating, and we have him with a cigarette, an ashtray, where his left hand would it's like a cigarette in like a ashtray like to the left of him. So like he's using his left hand. So but again, people smoke with different hands. But and Verdal made his own golf clubs, which lefties often had to do that in like the 50s and 60s. So I think he might have been left-handed. His brain worked like a lefty for sure. But Skip Hall was left-handed. Kenny Christian was left-handed. Dwayne Weber's left-handed. Don't know about anybody else. Somebody asked another suspect question a second ago. Let me see what it was. Where was that suspect question? Okay, well, if I can't find that suspect question, then I guess I'll just have to. Somebody asked me a suspect question that I didn't get to. And what was it? It was like, which suspects are. I don't know. Oh, who is the ugliest Cooper suspect? Well, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, is it not? I don't know. Probably Catalano. Right? I mean, Catalano there looks like a mafia don. Catalano is going to be, the second row, third from the left. The one above LD Cooper, that's Catalano. I know Rekka looks like Shrek to me. Rekka looks like Shrek. I don't think Braden was particularly. Braden looks kind of ugly to me. Yeah, Braden. I'd say Ted Braden's an ugly guy. I think Braden qualifies as homely. Remember the stewardess is called Cooper Homely, so I'd say Braden's homely. And Rekka looks like Shrek for sure. Catalano is for sure ugly, no doubt about it. No doubt about that. Ragstraw was a handsome fellow. Look that photograph of Ragstraw there. Second from the right, second row, in the color photo. That was taken a month before the hijacking. You tell me that guy is going to be called 50 years old and ugly and bald or balding, receding hairline? No way. Come on. All right. Walter Schrecka. Oh, man, thank you. Walter Schrecka. I wouldn't call homely You wouldn't call Braden Homewood to his face. I wouldn't talk to Braden, period. For sure. Weber is Cosmo Kramer. He is. Dwayne, man. Dwayne's great. Walter Schrecka. My God, I'm totally using that. Apologies, Ryan, if this is covered. Does Bill Mitchell have a favorite suspect? Or one he finds more interesting? The only time I've ever heard Bill talk about suspects by name, he found John Limbach's presentation on Skip Hall to be strong, which it was, obviously. Skip's a good suspect. Can I name these men? I'll do it in a second, Tina. Apologies, Ryan, if this was... So, yeah, Bill Mitchell. Bill liked Verdal because he just remembers thinking Cooper was not scary. Like, he just remembers thinking this guy was a dork because I picked on him so badly. Like, remember, Bill, the only reason the FBI was like, why did you even pay attention to this guy? So I just picked on him because he was talking to Tina and he was like, this girl should be talking to me. I'm a 20-year-old college sophomore. She's my age. Why is she with this nerd? And so he picked on, so he was bored. He was studying his finals for his finals and kept looking over just like bored and was like, just if you're going to make fun of somebody. So he's like, he liked the vibe. Yes. Thank you, Justin. So the vibe was close to just the idea of an engineer. Bill was not an engineer, but he worked for Boeing for his career. He's like, I got the vibe of like a nerdy kind of guy, like not like a special forces badass dude. Right. He always didn't like when they showed him pictures of skydivers and paratroopers and special forces guys. He's like, I just didn't feel like he didn't feel that energy. Didn't feel that energy. It was like nerd energy. Yeah. Bye, D.B. Cooper. Good night. But he liked Verdal. He mentioned Braden by name. When he said Bill keeps up with the case. I mean, Bill watches my videos. If you're watching Bill, hello. Bill does watch videos. He didn't participate on this, but Bill does watch. Bill knows who Braden is because he said that he was joking, saying, yeah, this guy may have looked geeky, but thank God, because the FBI was like, do you think you could have beat up D.B. Cooper? So we're trying to get like a gauge, because like men, our caveman brain for men is like, do we, men are good at sizing up other men because men have to it's like caveman brain, right? It's like, can I take this guy in a fight if I had to? So the FBI used that as a way to get men to describe other men. So if they asked Bill, they said, could you have beat up this guy, the hijacker? He goes, yeah, I think so. He was like, I was way bigger than he was. Bill says he's way bigger than Cooper. Now, Bill was like 6'2", but Bill says way bigger than this guy. He said I could have grabbed him out of his chair. Now, that could be the confidence of youth of a 20-year-old, but he said I could have grabbed him out of his chair. But Bill says, looking back, Bill says, I learned about these guys like Ted Braden, and I'm like, well, thank God I didn't try that, because if it had been Ted Braden, he would have broke my neck like a movie, and that'd have been it. Yeah, James. James says that I spoke to Bill Mitchell at CooperCon 2024. Remember, Bill, there's no reason to come to CooperCon, for all you wondering. Bill comes to every year. He's there every year. You can meet Bill Mitchell and hang out with him, have beers with Bill Mitchell. He's awesome. But Bill says, James says, he told me that he was shown way too many pictures early on to remember anything about the way he looked. Only thing he stated to me was the turkey neck. Yeah, Bill, so adamant about this turkey neck. Like, we have him in the days after the hijacking saying, this guy had something wrong with his neck. Why is no one listening to me? And like, he was mad. He's like, they never put that in the sketch. And I'm like, hey, this guy had something wrong with his neck. Like, very clearly had a gobble like I do, So, and Bill even drew a side profile sketch for the FBI and gave it to them. And that has not shown up in the 302s. And I'm bummed out about that. Maybe it will. But anyway, Bill definitely could have beaten Cooper's ass. Well, if it was Braden, no, he couldn't have. Skip Hall might have whipped his ass too. Let's see. Okay. Well, folks, I'm going to wrap it up. So I've been going on a long time. So 3 hours. I try not to go. I always tell, every time I do one of these shows, I'm like, I'm going to go for an hour because I got other things to do. Then I have to start talking and, run my mouth. Anyway, okay. please like, subscribe. It really helps. It's free, costs nothing. Just do it. Okay. And I'm going to go for the night. So Auf Wiedersehen. So tomorrow, I think I'm going to have a 30-minute, pretty cool, maybe tomorrow, maybe Thursday. I'll have a 30-minute like video that's got some cool AI stuff and some voice actors and things. So it'll be fun. So look for my video tomorrow night, and I will see you guys later. Good night and good luck.